Okay, so now we have audio. See what kind of delay we've got. Quick.
Second.
Yeah. All right. Well, cool. Yeah. Let's yeah, we're here now. Uh sorry guys, everyone in the chat that might be with us. Looks like Josh from Colorado, Joshua from Colorado that was formerly in Louisiana.
Formerly from the Bayou.
Yeah, so I've been fighting this YouTube thing for I don't know, 4-6 months. Like yeah, it's been months where they've been trying to push me towards a like new version of their live stream thing, and I've just been like going like, no, give me the old one, and it's like, please tell us why you're using the old one, and like finally today I decided to jump into the new one, and it looks different, it's acting different, so we actually, it sounds like from our test on the thing here, there's less of a delay for you guys in the chat now, so I think there is still somewhat of a delay, but instead of like a closer to 30-second delay, it's probably closer to like a 5 to 10-second delay, so significantly reduced, so you guys will be a little bit more caught up with us, which I don't know that we've ever really had that big of an issue. Sometimes we're calling out for like an answer and it's a little bit slow, but like in general, I don't think that we're that cognizant a lot of times of the delay that we have with you guys, but now it's less, so that's kind of cool. So yeah, looks like we got Cody as well in the chat, so that's awesome. Yeah, the chat looks way different on my new screen now, so it takes some getting used to. Just everything, just the whole setup, but yeah, I don't know. I guess it's good. At some point, they were going to force me to come to it, and they haven't forced me yet. But I decided to finally take the plunge today because I had a couple minutes before you got here. So I was like, fine, I'll just jump in and do it. So, yeah, here for another roundtable. I changed the name of it rather than changing the name constantly to like what we're actually recording. I just put Dark Terror Palaver live stream, and then when I post the video, I guess like from there I can change the name of the video itself to whatever it is specifically. So, yeah. Here and ready for what is it? What are we on? We're number 81 now. So
I think you've taken away the spot where you look to see it, right?
No, I could still see that. I just haven't changed the slide yet because we haven't started the thing yet. And we got Panzerpox says it's Tom from Australia, just waking up. And then see that I can never keep straight where everyone's at timeline wise.
Wait, Tom, what day is it?
It's tomorrow.
It's tomorrow for them?
I think it is.
They're across the date line, right?
Yeah, I think so. Or yeah, I know they're across date line, but I think it's Sunday morning would be my guess. Yeah.
And then we got Mark too.
And Mark,
we got quite a few. Yeah.
Yeah, Sunday the future, he says. So, because I remember that when I first really that dawned on me, like full on, like in a real sense, because like you kind of know it from classes, but it was the year 2000, the New Year's thing.
Yeah.
You know, and it was all like, well, if Y2K was going to kill us all,
it would have already killed Australia.
It would have happened like 6 hours ago in Australia. And I'm like, well, damn, that ruins all the fun.
One thing to be cognizant of, guys, in the live stream is that my chat is slower than Tad's. You said Tom's answer in Sunday. I didn't get it for another like 20 seconds. So just be aware if there's something in the chat that we're not getting to, it's probably just because of that little bit of a delay. I'm usually mostly following the chat. Tad's reading the articles and everything like that and the news and stuff. So if there's something in the chat that we're supposed to be seeing, don't worry. We're probably going to see it. It's just there's more of a delay in the chat versus the actual stream itself, which, you know what? I'll take that treat.
Yeah. So we might be a tiny bit slower to see in the chat than normal, but in terms of the audio, for anyone that jumped in since I said it the first time, that you guys are hearing it sooner now. I changed the settings because there's new settings on this new version that YouTube's having me use. And so I set it to where hopefully you guys will be hearing it quicker than you would have in the past. In the past, we were seeing like a 30-second delay, I think, somewhere about there. And now we're probably closer to like a 5 seconds. So that's pretty cool. All right. Yeah, let's go ahead and hit the intro and get started. So we're, just to let you guys know in the chat, we're going to cover Dr. Sleep like in two different ways, because there's some news articles that we haven't covered yet that were actually leading into the movie, so it came out before the movie. There's some stuff that came out after the movie that wasn't really spoiler stuff. So I'm going to cover all that in order, and then we'll make a very clear delineation of when we're going to move into spoiler territory. So we have some other stuff to talk about before we get to Dr. Sleep. But yeah, just to let you guys know, I don't want anyone freaking out that like we're going to spoil Dr. Sleep stuff, because we'll cover, I'd say almost 60% of our Dr. Sleep talk that I have in the notes is pre-movie stuff. So don't get too concerned. I'll have the slide I have for once we move into spoiler territory hopefully makes it very clear that it's spoiler territory. So yeah, don't freak out when we get into that. So let's go ahead and hit the intro and then get started on number, I guess I can change the slide now, number 81.
The Dark Tower by Stephen King. The man in black fled across the desert, and the gunslinger followed. Go then. There are other worlds than these. Death, but not for you, gunslinger. It's time we had our own Palaver, I think, and it's going to take a while.
And yet, dauntless, the slug horn to my lips I set and blew. Child Roland to the Dark Tower came.
We are quartet, one from many. The Palaver begins.
Hello and welcome to Dark Tower Palaver. This is our podcast covering Stephen King's magnum opus, The Dark Tower series. My name is Tad.
And I'm Peter.
And we're here for roundtable number 81. And yeah, we're back now from, again, I don't know why it always feels so long after we do a book club, or in this case it was an Unfound Door, but it always just feels like it's been a while. I don't know, maybe it's just in my head I have them separated, but it just feels like it's been a minute, but it really hasn't. We just talked about the Institute last time. But yeah, we're here back for more roundtable action. And we'll actually, let me go ahead and jump to the calendar. I have that right on the top too. We can talk about that. So we're here for looks like I am covering the one with the You Are Here thing. So we're roundtable number 81, not 8. So Dr. Sleep reactions is one of the things we're going to cover in this. And then next time, our next show is our call-in show. So go ahead and hit us up on Skype at Dark Tower Palaver, no spaces, spelled out. That's the, if you want to add us. I haven't signed on, so if you've added and I haven't accepted, don't worry about it. It's because I haven't signed on. I'll probably do that like the morning of our live show early because, it's Microsoft, so there's probably 10 updates that need to run or whatever. But go ahead and add us there if you intend to call. And then maybe even just, if you could, even just shoot an email or a tweet or something to let me know that you're planning on calling so I can kind of gauge what to expect. I'm not going to time it out to or tell you when to call or anything crazy like that, but just give me an idea of who's planning on joining us on that episode and who is not. And so we can, because that's like the hard thing from my side. The last times we've done live things, it's like, man, if a bunch of people call in, like it'll fill up the episode. But if nobody calls in, like I still got to have stuff prepped just in case we have to go the other direction and not have as much calls. So if you could let me know, that would make things helpful. And then we'll close out the year of 2019, the year of King, or the year of the turtle, with it was the Dixie Pig, wasn't it? We said the year of the because it wasn't legitimately the year of the pig, so we called it the year of the Dixie Pig. So we'll close that one out on December 21st with roundtable number 82, which is where we'll close out the year. So that's kind of what we're looking at for the rest of the year. So first off, we'll want to warn you about spoilers. In this, we're going to talk about Dark Towers is always going to be the primary thing that we talk about. It's always going to be the foundation of everything we do. So if the 7 primary books of the Dark Tower series are not things that you've read, you may want to not listen to this episode and listen to our book club episodes. In those, we stay where we're at or before, and we never go forward beyond, like, we basically go line by line. So like right now we're, I think 80% through book 2. Like so if you're in the middle of book 3 or 4 or 5, like you're safe to listen to those. These episodes though, probably not. So that's your warning on that. Next up, if you want to find us, you can find us a number of places. Apple Podcasts. I hate saying that. It doesn't sound right. Stitcher, you can stream us on there, and any podcast service we should be available on. If you find any podcast service that you are listening to us and you can't find us on a new service that you find, let us know and we'll try to get added to that. If you want to help the show out, you can subscribe, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts. We would appreciate that. That helps the show get exposure, hopefully grow our quartet even more, because we love having as many people as possible. Last up on my side is the show notes. You can find that at darktowerpalaver.com. On the show notes, you'll find all the articles that I cover, pictures that I show Peter, the stuff that people are seeing in the live chat, or if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see it as well. But if you want to see those things and you're listening in the standard podcast fashion, go to darktowerpalaver.com and you'll see a show notes, in this case, like for Roundtable 81, and you'll be able to go through and look at everything we're talking about in this episode, as well as links if I'm covering an article and I don't cover everything that the article talked about, and maybe because I usually abridge things. If you want to read the whole article, you can always find that kind of stuff at darktowerpalaver.com with our show notes. And if you want to be part of the Palaver, you can do that a number of ways, and Peter can tell you about those.
Best way to reach us is through email. It's darktowerpalaver@gmail.com. Then we also have our social media. It's facebook.com/darktowerpalaver. And the Twitter, it's @darktowerpod. That's @darktowerpod. And then, like Tad said, we're on YouTube. It's youtube.com/darktowerpalaver. We stream all of our shows live. Tad was mentioning in the pre-show that we're doing now the new live stream on YouTube. So you'll get notifications if you hit the like and ring the bell to get those notifications when we go live. And with that, you can also go back and watch roundtable episodes, but not book clubs. We don't leave the book clubs up due to the copyright issues on the audio clips.
Yes, indeed. Go ahead. It looks like some people in the chat here have seen the movie, talking about it a little bit here. But yeah, I want to just throw it out right off the top. I know we're going to cover some other stuff, but I want to tell everyone, I said it on Twitter as well. If you haven't seen Dr. Sleep, I highly recommend that you go and see it. There's a number of movies coming out and stuff, and it may not last in theaters that long, so you don't have that much of a window, most likely. So go see it. I highly recommend if you're a fan. Even if you're not a fan, I think there's a lot of reviews I've seen that people that didn't like the book but loved the movie. So yeah. I think it's special. And we'll get into that toward the tail end when we talk about the movie in our spoiler section. But I do highly recommend it. I think any King fan or Shining fan would dig the movie. So
yeah,
go check it out.
So one of the first things we got to talk about is we kind of hinted at this either last time or the roundtable before, with the potential for possible schedule change for the podcast.
Oh yeah,
with everything. I let Tad know. I found out with my new place of employment what my schedule is going to be. Coincidentally enough, it's going to be perfect to line up to where we don't have to move the podcast. So think of it on the 7th and the 21st, normal time, which is our time here is 3 p.m. Mountain Time. You can figure it out from there, 5 Eastern.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like it's going to be much of a change. We're still always interested in hearing if we need to look at doing like a random show at a different hour so you can tune in live. We haven't heard much about that, have we?
No, I haven't heard a whole lot on that, but
so if we get a bunch of emails or tweets or anything on Facebook saying that you want us to do a show earlier, later,
for different time zones,
so that you can tune in live, let us know. We're always open to that, but the schedule is not going to change. I was able to set my work schedule around it so that I have every Saturday off, so I'm available for any podcast for us.
Yeah, which is awesome. So the regular shows won't stop, but if in terms of this regular schedule won't stop, we'll still be on that. But if we do want to have a special show every so often on different times, let us know what would be best on that. So looks like Tom in the chat has to take off. So he has to go return some videotapes.
I understood that reference.
Yeah, that's a good one. I just watched Ford versus Ferrari, and every time I see Christian Bale, like, Patrick Bateman is the number one thing that I think of. Like, there's nothing else that he'll ever do in his life that'll overtop that movie for me. So even watching that, I mean, and he's completely different in this. Like, he plays a different character, he has a different accent. Like, he's just basically the antithesis of Patrick Bateman.
You're like, that's that American Psycho guy.
But it's like, it's still, like, I know for a lot of people it's probably Batman because, I mean, the Nolan films are so iconic and stuff. But yeah, for me, no, he'll always be Bateman.
I always just remember the scene in American Psycho where he's wearing the raincoat that first time, where he's just like doing like the jigs and the fast
talking
walk,
about Huey Lewis in the
talking
news.
about Huey Lewis in the news. I don't know why, but I always just remember that. Then it's like, what's the guy's name? Hey, Tom. And, that's always what sticks in my head from the whole movie.
Yeah,
that's what you say his name, and that's just instantly where I pop up to is that, like, he does like that power walk through the front room at one point. Yeah. And he's wearing like the rain slicker. It's just like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, that's a fun one. That's a good one. And it has one of the Jokers in it too. The what's his name? The guy that played it in Suicide Squad.
Jared Leto.
He's in that movie.
Oh, he is?
So yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's kind of a fun little Batman thing there. But yeah, so let's go ahead and dive right in. Sadly, when it comes to Dark Tower, we're still looking at our news in news bits fashion. So
nothing big, huh?
No big like cataclysmic announcements or anything. So yeah, so we'll be just kind of looking at it in bits. Looks like we got someone new in the chat as well, also from Australia. So it's 8 a.m. here in Australia. Making pancakes for the kids and listening to this is great. Man, I think we've got there's a number of Australia listeners. I can think of now. So we have Tom and then Missionkin, and then Chris, and then we have another emailer that's
from
I can't remember. Maybe that is even Tom, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But I remember there was one because he was emailing. He was a new emailer, and he mentioned being from Australia. So we got a number of listeners down there. That's pretty cool. A place that terrifies me.
Well, I mean, what's better than on a Sunday morning than listen to two idiots talk about Dark Tower? You know?
Yeah, indeed. It still blows my mind. It's Saturday afternoon right now. All right, so. With the news bits here, again, it seems to be like recently, it's been a lot of Instagram stuff. So the Instagram thing that came up was actually the first one was on November 11th that I wanted to talk about here, and it is from Emir Muller, which we're not sure who he's playing, but he's the one that we saw in the costume. It had the dilapidated gun and stuff. And he had Big Coffin Hunters was one of his hashtags. And so we're not sure exactly who he is in terms of character wise, but he actually posted so the first thing I'll mention is I got excited not too long ago because I saw that he was Instagramming and I follow him and it was showing a city name, and I looked it up and it was Croatia. I'm like, is he back in Croatia? But then I started looking through his timeline. Dude, I don't know if he ever left.
Oh, really?
I think he might be. I think he's just like there like now just enjoying like the area, like a lot of
I went here to work for a couple of weeks. Let's just take a 6-month vacation.
Yeah, I mean possibly,
because weren't they there in like May and June?
It was June. Yeah, it was May and June. That's right. End of May, early June is when they were doing the filming for the pilot.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it seems like he's still there. I don't know if he's left, or if he has left. I really don't know. That's all conjecture. I'm just saying he has been there for a while, and he's posted a lot, and a lot of it just seems vacation-y. So I don't want to use that as any kind of hints or anything.
Yeah.
But he did post something here that was intriguing, and it goes back to some of the other stuff we've had. Could be something old that's being posted now, or it could be something new. There's all kinds of possibilities there. So here is the post, and it is him. The one on the left seemingly is from the same shoot as when he got the picture that he posted originally. The one on the right looks more, it looks different to where maybe it's from a different time, but certainly the same costume. But the one thing that I find interesting is this one on the left is actually, even though it may be from that same time period that he shot that first photo we saw, we haven't seen that gun that way. We only saw it in a holster. So look at how shitty it looks.
Yeah, it's like a band around it, like holding the barrel on.
Yeah, like it looks like that's holding the barrel to the lower portion. Is
no trigger guard.
Yeah. Yeah, and we saw that when it was in the holster. We saw no trigger guard. We saw it had no grip. But this is kind of interesting to see kind of on the barrel side. Like they're making it look even more shitty, which is interesting.
And looks like he's got the same necklace, the same yellow and everything like that, just minus the hat.
Yeah, he's missing the hat, and it's too close up to see if he has the gun on the other picture. So it's two pictures side by side. Like I said, this is posted where I took that screen grab this morning, so it's 2 weeks ago is what it says. I think it's November 11th is when it was posted. You could see on the comments on the side.
What's the November 2nd at the bottom right?
Oh, maybe that is when it was posted. Okay. So, I guess I took that down wrong. I think maybe I was looking at a different Instagram post I was going to share originally, thinking that it was one of his Croatia posts, I think. And then I started to realize, like, wait a minute, looking through it more, I'm like, wait, no, this is like, I think he might still be in Croatia. He hasn't left potentially. So yeah, November 2nd is when this one was posted, and then 11th he posted something else where he was like on the waterfront in Croatia. And I was that looks like Croatia. And I looked up the city that it tagged, and I'm sure enough it was. Yeah, November 2nd. But then in the comments, there's a few things there, And one of them was actually on our side, a longtime listener, Sawyer, and asks a question in German, says, "Can you tell us anything about the project?" And then Emir responds also in German saying, "Silence, sorry," and then he gives a winky emoji and a waving hand emoji. "Soon it will happen." So, like, I'm guessing, when he says reveal, I'm guessing he's kind of what we've been hearing, hopefully an announcement's coming soon of some kind. And then Sawyer, ever the reporter here, asks the pertinent question but doesn't get an answer. This year, winking emoji. So he's like,
trying to narrow it down.
Yeah, it's like, is it gonna
Sawyer?
Yeah,
doing Gan's work there. For us.
Indeed. So it's really cool. For one, like I said, I love seeing more of the gun. And then potentially maybe it's him in the costume again, because it is a different time period there. Because even the scarf is in a different position. Yeah, it just seems to me that it may have been shot at a different time than the picture you saw originally. So that's pretty cool. And like I said, he's still in Croatia. Maybe he's just waiting there for green light and or no before he moves back to goes back to wherever, I think Germany potentially. I know he speaks German, but I can't remember if he's based in Germany or not. So so that's pretty cool. Pretty exciting. Like I said, I love seeing that gun. Just again, some of the details that hopefully we'll be seeing at some point that they put into this as a cool way to differ, like Roland's guns versus who we see other people having guns.
Oh yeah,
that'll be cool. So let's see. Anything in the chat that I missed? You were giggling there earlier.
Mark had a really good thing. He said, "Respect to any Aussie that makes it to adulthood. What with literally every animal trying to end you, LOL."
Yeah, that's why Australia terrifies me. There's a lot of things there that just it probably wouldn't be. I mean, at the same time, I'm sure there's city people like that live in big cities that look at like our area and go, we're only an hour drive from being in the mountains where there's all kinds of horrible things that could also kill you that may not be in a big city.
Mm-hmm.
But Australia, there's just something that's like, I don't know. That's pretty terrifying.
Flush before you use the toilet in case there's a spider or a snake or a lizard or a koala. Like the fact that there's a multiple list for that is just further proof to what you're talking about.
Yeah, indeed. That's the first one. And then the second one was actually this past week that we had here, and this is kind of an interesting one. So we had kind of it's either a reveal or a leak. We don't really know what.
Okay. And
it kind of went back and forth a little bit, but I would say that we basically have a revelation on who Ivan K is going to be playing. He's one of our mystery men that we've had up to this point. Emir, I guess technically you can call him one as well. We don't know exactly which role he's playing, but he's certainly been touting it as though he's playing a big coffin hunter. But we basically been looking at Michael Roker and Ivan K as our two big mystery men. But earlier in the week, it was basically, I think, leaked. And there's the picture for reference. What was your guess? Do you remember? I couldn't remember what I had said on Twitter. Okay. Because I remember Court and Thorin are probably the big ones that a lot of people are predicting. And indeed, he is playing Hart Thorin. So that was released, kind of leaked, I think, in a lot of ways. IMDb listed it. Yeah. But then, we have on Twitter, we've been engaging with an Ivan K fan, like a fan group Twitter handle, and they've been really friendly and everything. And they posted something as well, and I actually didn't grab a screen grab of that because I thought, oh, cool, whatever. But now that's been deleted, so I don't know what's going on. And then apparently it got deleted off of IMDb, and it showed blank again. And again, IMDb, should be noted, belongs to Amazon.
Right.
So that's kind of their gig that they can control. But then when I checked this morning, it was showing again. So I actually have the updated cast as it looks now.
One blank spot.
Yep, just the one now. And again, but Emir is not showing up. The one that we had earlier, the previous post we were talking about was Emir Muller. But I looked him up on IMDb just to see, and I couldn't find him on IMDb. So maybe the reason he's missing from this is because he doesn't have a profile on there yet. Yeah. So that's kind of what it's looking like now.
So we don't have a Court yet, do we?
No, we don't have Court. We don't have a land, or wait, no, we do have land now.
Yeah.
He finally got revealed. But we don't have Cuthbert, so we don't have the star of the show.
Don't you mean the Rook Skull?
And I mean, Michael Roker, in a lot of ways, we have a lot of circumstantial evidence that he's probably playing Eldred Jonas.
Yeah.
But no confirmation in any way yet. But I mean, ultimately, if we were to just speculate and say yes, he is going to be Eldred Jonas, I would say that the big ones that we have left are Cuthbert,
Court.
Yeah, Court would be a big one.
And officially Eldred Jonas, because
that's what I'm saying.
It's got me thinking. We got some good evidence for Roker playing Jonas, but he would make a pretty damn good Court.
Yeah, I mean, I think when he was first announced,
that's what you said, wasn't it?
I think like Court's. I called it a good dark horse candidate. Not necessarily. I would say that just his voice alone just makes me think Eldred Jonas. And then some of the other stuff that came later on that makes me think that he's probably our Jonas. But I would say that he still would be a great Court if he were if I had to alternate cast him, I'd put him as Court, but that would always be secondary to Jonas for me.
Yeah.
So, that is what we have on the Dark Tower side as of this morning.
Interesting.
I guess.
I don't know if you noticed this, but on the right-hand side there where it says 1 episode, 2020.
Yeah, that's what it said for now.
I just never noticed that before, that it says a year there saying 1 episode 2020, so next year, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's had that for a while, the 1 episode thing. I don't want to overblow necessarily, because that's what they have filmed right now. And the way IMDb works, it works more episode wise than it does you don't just add something to a series, you add it to an episode. That's just the way they work. So 1 episode for now. Hopefully we'll get a green light and we'll have multiple. At one point I heard that IMDb was gonna try to implement a spoiler thing, because there's shows you'll watch, and if you go and look at it on IMDb and
that character's in it. He's obviously alive. That happened with.
It'll say 68 episodes. You have 4 leads. It's 68 episodes, 40 episodes. It's oh shit, something's gonna happen.
Yeah,
I heard they were gonna change that to where it was something you had to kind of do something more interactive to reveal, but I haven't seen that happen yet. So
it would be nice if they would, because I had one of those. That's one of the reasons why I really stopped using IMDb before watching a show. It was The Walking Dead. There was a scene where a character's oh, that character's dead for sure. Write him off. It didn't show it, but write him off. He's dead. And then about 3 episodes later, he comes back. But I happened to be on IMDb looking at the new episode, and I'm just oh, I wonder if someone else was going to be in it. He hasn't been in a few episodes this season.
Yeah.
And the guy that was, air quotes, dead was cast, and I'm oh, he's coming back.
Yeah.
Damn it.
I was watching a show, I can't remember what show it was, but it was over this last year, and the opening credits, it had at the very beginning of the show, and it showed an actor's name where I'm oh, that's a character that's not in this show. He's been in the show before, but he hasn't been around for a year or so.
So he's coming back.
So he's in this episode, sometimes they'll hide that the end of the episode.
Yeah, I was gonna say there was one like that in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. There's a huge one in one of the later seasons where a character has left and gone his own way, and then comes back, and it's he comes back, literally has one line to start a fight, and the episode ends, and it's guest starring, and it says the actor's name.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
You clever bastards! I see what you're doing.
Usually that's what they do. I want to say there was something like that in Better Call Saul. There's been a few where there's been some smaller roles that were from Breaking Bad that showed up, and they hid those to where you didn't see it until the end, because you never know, oh shit, that character just showed up in the show, you know, kind of thing. So the next one here may seem somewhat perplexing, but I think that it'll be somewhat clear why we're talking about it, I guess. This was kind of a kerfuffle this past week online, kind of made a lot of people upset. So first of all, I want to just set the stage. So it was this article dropped on the 19th. On the 18th, there was some, just normal chatter. Man, I wish we'd hear something. And I was just man, wouldn't it be nice? And I think I tagged Amazon, and I think I even tagged the head of development at Amazon, Jennifer or something. I'm blanking on her name now. And then I just thought it'd be great, on the 19th to have some kind of announcement. So then this ends up coming out the next day on the 19th. And there's part of me that's I'm not going to ask for that again, because this was, this is something else. So the headline is Hot TV Package, Michael Moorcock's fantasy novel series, The Elric Saga, with Glenn Mazzara and Vaughn Wilmot. And this is by Mike Fleming Jr. from Deadline on November 19th, 2019. And it says exclusive, New Republic Pictures, Brian Oliver and producer Bradley J. Fisher acquired the exclusive rights for all works in the Michael Moorcock's seminal fantasy horror series, the Elric Saga. They're beginning to shop the property for the series with Glenn Mazzara, The Walking Dead and The Shield, and Prison Break, and the Star Trek Discovery's Von Wilmot attached to adapt the sci-fi fantasy tale. At a time when platforms are looking for the next Game of Thrones, this certainly fits the bill. In terms of a sprawling series, the Elric's stories are Moorcock's best-selling works, a series of complex and layered novels that take place across multiple dimensions of reality and alternate universes. It was Moorcock himself who coined the word multiverse as a fictional concept in his 1963 novel, The Sundred Worlds, now a common term used to describe broader worlds of movies and television franchises from Marvel to DC to Stephen King and Star Wars. The novels are sensual and atmospheric sword and sorcery tales that center on a title character, a brooding albino warrior who presides over an unruly, decadent island nation. The novel follows Elric on a series of adventures in which he is betrayed by his cousin, sent into exile, and attempts to come to terms with his own humanity. The series comprises 11 novels and a number of short stories, and will be adapted, or has been adapted into several comics and graphic novels. And then it says Mazzara is currently executive producing and writing the Dark Tower series for MRC and Amazon based on Stephen King's novel series. And Wilmot was creator and executive producer for Domino for Sci-Fi and sold Texas crime drama series Bent to Jerry Bruckheimer TV and CBS Television. So kind of gives some background there. So obviously there was quite the reaction to seeing that Glenn is attached to another series essentially. And yeah, so it caused a lot of people to think that was kind of was boding ill for the Dark Tower, and I can't even blame people because I think I even thought the same thing. I'm like, like I get how it works. Like writers are like I don't even know what to explain it as, but like they're the kind of people like they're almost like guns for hire type thing. Like they have jobs when they have jobs, and like some people may look at like, oh, this writer got $1 million for a script, cool. But yeah, but if they don't work for 6 years, like how much is that $1 million? Especially after he has to pay his agent 10% and like taxes and everything else. Like eventually gets to the spot where a lot of these guys have a lot of irons in the fire, so that hopefully something pans out and they have gainful employment. So I kind of was able to ground myself and think about that more. And then it was funny because here we have a tweet from Glenn himself. And he says, Elric and the Dark Tower have nothing to do with each other. Writers often develop many projects simultaneously. And I retweeted that. That was on the evening of the 19th, because that was quite the day. Yeah, there was a lot of disappointed people thinking that Dark Tower was cooked.
I also want to note that he didn't change his profile picture. It still has the Wizard and Glass picture. So,
yeah.
I'm with Glenn on this. I think that it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
It's the first I've heard about it. I didn't hear about it. I did hear that Lord of the Rings already got picked up for a second season.
Yeah, it's kind of funny about that. Like that kind of makes me like whatever. Because so when they signed it originally, I think they basically said like they spent $1 billion on it, and it was like going to be at least 5 seasons. So it's weird now they're saying they're greenlighting season 2. It's like
season 2. It's like did you already say 5?
You paid $1 billion for this fucking property. Yeah. Like you're not going to cancel it after a season, and you already told us 5. So it just feels to me like maybe it's like somewhat like they've now said like, yeah, for sure, like they're working on season 2 as well, whatever. And it just normal blog journalism where people
trying to grab headlines.
Get the clicks and stuff. But yeah, the one thing I find interesting with this tweet from Glenn is he's very sparse in tweeting about anything Dark Tower related. He tweets quite a bit. I will just say this stood out to me in terms of as one that follows him, and I have like even notifications to where like if he tweets, I want to know about it as soon as possible. He tweets a lot, and he doesn't talk about Dark Tower a lot. So if nothing, the outrage or the disappointment that people felt was enough to kind of get his attention and have him the same night tweet this. So
I wonder if this is something this very well could be a ploy. I don't doubt that this didn't happen, but this is just kind of like the cynical me is that the movie did so terribly box office wise.
Yeah,
that Amazon is still kind of like trigger shy, about pulling the trigger.
Yeah,
which is why we're getting a pilot instead of just a season, to see how it goes and everything like that. It really wouldn't surprise me if they did this announcement on purpose just to kind of gauge what kind of outrage there is going to be about it. And the fact that we had an outrage and Glenn had to respond is kind of going to be boding well for us.
Yeah, hopefully.
I mean, that's the optimist in me that's going to be like, I was just going to look at it and go, oh, people do want this.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a hashtag, greenlight the Dark Tower.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. Maybe we should. Yeah, I think there's enough money in it that we're going to make. So let's do it.
Yeah, I do. I hope that, I don't know. I just hope to hear something. I'm kind of getting tired of the silence a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But the one thing I will say is Glenn is not just, what does it say, executive producer and writing the Dark Tower series, but he's a showrunner. And the only thing that I don't know how this works necessarily. So if he's being shopped for this, like if Dark Tower gets picked up, means he pretty much has to pull out of this other project. Because I honestly don't. I mean, I think even a normal writer, I think it's hard to say that like a normal writer can work on two shows at the same time. I don't even know if that's allowed in a lot of ways. Because like it takes so much bandwidth. Like you're going to be in a writer's room, like half the year you're writing episodes. The other half of the year you're writing episodes for the next season. Like it's
rewrites. Heaven forbid they come back and say, "Hey, we need to redo this scene. This guy broke his arm." Or that has happened. I mean, it's fiction, but we see it in it where like, hey, we got to rewrite it because of the stunt workers and the unions.
Yeah,
that happens is where you have to rewrite a scene.
Yeah,
and they go back to the writer who's on staff.
Yeah,
Glenn. And say, hey, we got to rewrite this. And if Glenn's going to be, showrunner and writer.
And showrunner, that's basically the dude that steers the ship. Like the movie equivalent is director. Like that's your main dude. Like he's the one that's ultimately going to be in charge of everyone. Everyone answers to him. And he's the decision maker. So I just don't know that. I don't know that in a normal aspect, like if both these got picked up, I think he can only pick one of the two. I don't think he could do both. I think he could cultivate both at this level. Both of them are in the early stages to where, Dark Tower's obviously further along because he's filmed a pilot. But ultimately it comes down to, like, if Dark Tower got greenlit tomorrow, I don't know that he would be involved in this other show because, like, a writer working on two projects would be pretty unheard of on TV from my understanding. But a showrunner, like, that dude's got so much more going that, like, dude, there's no way he could be a showrunner on one show and write for another, so I don't think that both will happen. I think this is just kind of cultivating new
you don't think both will happen with Glenn at the spearhead of both.
He can't be,
but they
both
both could still happen. Glenn would most likely have to, well, that's where one thing may be is that maybe he runs the Dark Tower now, and then as soon as it gets greenlit, that's where he passes it off.
Yeah.
And that's where he gets a showrunner to pick it up at that point. He's like
possibly, but
he's like the developing showrunner.
But he's part of the package though. He's part of the thing that Amazon's looking at as part of their equation. Is if he's the showrunner, it's like a director for a movie. It's like, oh, you got Spielberg at this movie, cool, yeah, we'll buy that movie. But then if Spielberg drops out, the studio might go, no, we don't want it anymore.
Well, what I think of it as is kind of like those ones where it's like, like Spielberg owns the rights to a movie, and he helps like develop the idea for getting this movie onto the big screen.
Yeah.
But then at the end of the day, he hires you to direct it.
Yeah.
So that's what I think of here is where we're at is that Glenn may be, getting the shows up and on their feet and ready to walk and almost ready to run. And when they're ready to run, okay, great. I got it ready to go. I'm going to be doing kind of things with both shows, maybe like All Hell Kevin Feige kind of does, is what I kind of think of. Feige's been a part of 23 movies.
Yeah, but he's a producer though, and he's
right.
like the chief person. Like versus like this would be like a director doing two things at the same time, and that wouldn't be.
At the same time, you have multiple directors for TV shows. Is that look at The Mandalorian? It's had 3 different directors.
Well, no.
now,
But I'm saying film directors. Like the film director's like your dude that's the center of everything. He's the one that makes the decisions. Like someone's like, hey, I have 2 costumes. Which one is this person going to wear? They got to go talk to the director because he's ultimately going to be the one that goes, I like that one. And that's kind of what the showrunner is for a TV, where they're like, oh, or like we there's a lot of different people are going to come to him with things. So I guess I'm just using the director as, because in TV directors are less important in some ways, so they can move in and out. Like Taika Waititi's directing an episode of The Mandalorian at the end of the last episode.
Yeah.
So it's like guys can move in and out, but like showrunner, that's pretty much that's a big deal when that changes. That's like when Frank Darabont got fired from Walking Dead, and then Glenn took over. Like that was a big deal. That was a huge shift for the show because it's like, oh, the dude that developed this and did the first season and part of the second season, then we're just gonna fucking cut his budget and then fire him. Like it was a big deal because it's a huge part of the thing. So Yeah, Glenn can develop both. I don't think it says anything, but I ultimately, and maybe he'll end up even writing some scripts for that other show. But then if Dark Tower gets done, like he's not going to continue writing for that show, would be my guess. But maybe he'll prove me wrong. But that's the way I would kind of interpret it. But yeah, so that's kind of the Dark Tower news. So now moving into the wider King universe for the rest of the stuff here. This next one is interesting from October 27th. And this was from the Vancouver Sun, again, October 27, 2019, by David Carrig. And the article was titled, Vancouver Residents Warned of Graphic Stephen King Miniseries Street Scenes. And...
oh, damn. Those are a bunch of dead people.
Yes, indeed. It says so, and then here's the article. It says on Saturday, the city of Vancouver warned residents on Twitter that, quote, there will be filming taking place downtown, 400 block Seymour Street, which involves highly visible graphic content, including dead bodies, trash, and debris. Shouting of course language and gunfire. Please do not be alarmed if you're in the area. So, yeah, that's that. And it goes on in here. It says the warning is related to CBS All Access's 10-episode miniseries being shot in Vancouver based on Stephen King's fantasy epic, The Stand. The Stand tells the story of a post-apocalyptic world left in ruins by a man-made influenza virus that kills most people, in which surviving groups group up and fight amongst each other. So I'm not going to go too heavy, generally speaking, into like behind-the-scenes street. We did that a little bit for Dark Tower, but like I think that's different. For normal stuff or not, I did want to cover this though. I thought it was kind of funny, and there is also one other picture that I think is
well, before you change the picture, I wanna point out a little small detail.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever played it growing up. Did you ever play the license plate game?
No.
That's a New York license plate.
Yeah.
So we're getting some plague shots here of New York City.
Yeah, which Vancouver is often
commonly used in place of New York City.
Yeah. So, and it says, yeah, let me go ahead and do the other picture because it's like, I got two more lines on this. Let me read those, then we'll go to the other picture because I think it's got some conversating there. On Sunday, buses, cars were staged on Seymour Street with dummies made to look like dead and deformed people draped over them inside the vehicles, and in one case collapsed into the open trunk of a vehicle. And then the last thing it says is The Stand was published in 1978. So this next picture is the main reason I wanted to cover this. And here it is.
Tube neck,
because we didn't get that in the original miniseries, really. Like, people died, but it wasn't, because this is like grotesque. But it's an interesting thing because, again, we've been kind of pointing out some of the things that were like Rita is one of the big example. We've been talking about things. What are we going to get here that we didn't get in the original miniseries? And it looks like a very graphic look at what Captain Trips is going to look like. So, yeah, I think it's pretty cool. And yeah, just to know that they're filming it is awesome. I can't wait to see the show.
That looks really good though.
And let's see in the chat here. Josh said The Stand. Yep. Looks like Chris popped in. I didn't see that. Says depends on how he says maggots. Back to the Roker conversation. Yeah. Indeed. And then Josh says, has Nosferatu finished its run? I've been waiting to binge it. I'm actually in the same boat as you. And you know what? Until this very moment, Josh, I have not even thought about it. So it makes me think that maybe it's not back. Nosferatu. Let's see.
I got it pulled up right here.
Because they have like a mid-season break type thing, and I don't know when it's coming back to finish the season. Are you looking it up? Because
it says it only has one season, and the one season started airing on June 2nd, while AMC will broadcast the episodes over a 9-week period. So to that, it would be done.
Okay. So I guess is that the full first season then?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then he says it's my favorite Joe Hill book. Yeah, I actually liked it a lot. I still haven't read enough of his to give like a definitive statement on whatever, but I did really enjoy it a lot. So maybe it is done now. Yeah, I swear they took a break. I'm not even seeing a break here. The complete season became available on June. Yeah, so it is indeed done. So thanks for asking, Josh, because that is news to me. I need to add that to my fucking heaping pile of things I need to watch right now.
I think there might be more than one season.
Oh yeah, I mean they might go into more seasons, but I honestly thought they were like taking like a couple month break in the middle of season 1, and that's why I didn't ever jump on board when it first started happening.
Yeah, the last episode aired in July.
Yeah, so it looks like season 1 is done, so that's pretty cool. I got to add that to my list. I got a number of things I got to watch right now. It's getting
the
over
bad guy off the TV. That's just creepy.
It's getting overwhelming. You think so?
Yeah, because guess what? Of course, I'm thinking of right now.
What?
The Lincoln Tunnel.
Oh yeah, I mean naturally that's that's what one should think of.
You're still not changing it, Tad.
Well, yeah, we got the next article to talk about here. So, the next one, we're kind of getting into Dr. Sleep talk, but anyone, again, that wasn't here earlier when I kind of spelled it out, or did we talk about it? Did I make that?
Yeah.
Did we say that on part of the podcast side or just the live chat side?
I think it was just live chat.
So
side.
yeah, if we didn't do it for the podcast side, what we're going to do is we have some articles. I have some articles to cover that are pre-release, and some that are even post-release but aren't spoiler at all. So we're going to cover all those now, and then we're going to give you a warning to kind of allow you to drop out before we get into the spoiler section. But because there's a number of things to talk about for Dr. Sleep that even came out before the movie came out, and I wanted to cover a lot of that stuff. So if you're on the podcast and you haven't seen the movie yet, go see it for one. But two, you can continue listening, and I will make it very clear when we'll move into the spoiler section. So first one I want to cover here is Stephen King says Dr. Sleep film redeems Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. Or actually, do I have it out of order here? Oh, I do.
Oops.
Yeah, no, I accidentally. Oh, yeah, it went down. So, Dr. Sleep's Mike Flanagan is actively talking with Stephen King about another adaptation.
Oh,
even more exciting.
Yes,
in a lot of ways. This is by Eric Eisenberg from Cinema Blend on November 6, 2019. And this it starts off here. It says Mike Flanagan has spent the last decade proving that he is one of the most talented horror directors working today. A big part of that has been what he has done, making truly excellent Stephen King adaptations. More than a quarter of his filmography making features has been dedicated to the big screen takes on books from the legendary author, including 2007's Gerald's Game and upcoming Dr. Sleep. It's been wonderful watching Mike Flanagan operate with source material, and it has earned him a lot of acclaim, which is why it's extra exciting to learn that he's not done yet. In fact, the writer-director is now in active talks to make a third movie based on the works of Stephen King. So, I mean, that's very exciting. It goes on here. It says, this is news I learned about last month when I was having a wonderful opportunity to sit down with Mike Flanagan for an extended on-camera interview during the Los Angeles press day for Dr. Sleep. Noting that there aren't many filmmakers who have directed 2 or more movies based on Stephen King's books, I asked him if he was going to return to that particular well in the future, and I was surprised to learn that the wheels are already in motion. And then it said Flanagan, and so now we're moving to a quote by Mike himself. He says, Stephen King and I are talking actively about what's next, and we have a great idea, but I'm not allowed to talk about it. But it's really cool, and yeah, I expect there will be another chance to play in the sandbox very soon.
So the question is, what do we have available?
Exactly. So let me finish this, then we'll get into that conversation.
Okay.
It says he's already sitting comfortably with a club of directors that include the lists of Rob Reiner, Stand By Me in Misery, George A. Romero, Creepshow, and The Dark Half. But he has a chance to tie the record set by Frank Darabont, Shawshank, Green Mile, and The Mist, who is currently the only person who has made 3 feature film adaptation of King's stories, which is actually interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever thought about that necessarily, but it was somewhat surprising. I'm like, oh, wow, I don't know. There's been so many movies. It's kind of crazy that it's so spread out. But yeah, Frank is obviously the king right now. Goes on here, says he also made the reasoning behind this direction very clear. Adapting the work of Stephen King is something that he just really loves doing. Not only did he have a great time making Gerald's Game and Dr. Sleep, but he's immensely grateful of the appreciation that King has shown for both movies, and he's up for making as many adaptations as the author is willing to allow. It's been my dream since I was a kid, and there's a quote from Mike. I was a kid to be able to adapt Stephen King, and he's let me play in his sandbox 2 times. I'd be thrilled to do it again. He's been happy both times, which is still like, and then it says in parentheses, mind-blowing gesture. As long as that keeps up, if he'll have me come back, I'm there for the long haul. I'll do as many as he'll let me. So that's interesting. Yeah. So I just have a
good. You grabbed the list.
I did our big board of upcoming things here. The thing I find interesting is that King is involved in getting him involved with another project. So it makes me wonder, like, what is King's actual I guess role in all this? Like if he sells the rights to a studio, I would always think that at that point King's kind of out of the conversation.
Mhm.
So it makes me think, because like honestly, is there in your mind, is there anything that of King's that's not in development at some point in some way, shape, or form? It feels to me like almost everything's taken right now, or tied up from a previous adaptation. Because there's some things like whatever, like Christine. Yes, but at the same time, that's gonna belong to the people that made the first one, because they will have bought permanent rights to that when they made the original film. So it's like, makes me think like, what's out there that has either A, not had a film made before, or B, is not already tied up with the studio, that King could have that kind of realm to say like, yes, I'm going to grant you this movie.
Well, we could always get a remake of Maximum Overdrive.
That is actually what I saw a little bit online. Dude, that'd be interesting as hell, dude. And dude, yeah, I mean, we're going to talk more at length. It's one of my topic questions for our spoiler section, kind of like to wrap up Dr. Sleep. So toward the end of the episode, we'll talk about that. But kind of just putting the whole thing in context after having talked about the movie itself. Yeah. But what do you think up there? Anything that, let's just say, because I'm trying to remember, we don't really have it listed up here. I mean, he could easily be on any of the shows, because again, directors can kind of pop in on a show and do whatever they want. But any of the movies there jump out at you that we have announced so far? And I don't know. Who knows? There might be directors from some of these.
I'm not going to lie. If we're going to talk, Flanagan's a horror writer.
Yeah.
So I don't want to look at shows like, I'm looking at this list and I'm looking at Firestarter. Drama, thriller, sure. Horror, not so much. I know you haven't read it. So, conspiracy, kind of like the great way to think about Firestarter is think about the veins of the Institute. We talked about it last episode. Would you constitute the Institute as a horror Stephen King novel?
No.
It's more of an action, suspense, thriller, conspiracy. It's a good way I've been it's kind of a new category that I'm starting to use, because someone at work asked me about Us.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, what kind of horror is it? Is it possession? Is it slasher? Is it monster? And I'm like, it's more of like a conspiracy. She's like, what do you mean conspiracy? I'm like, well.
So you're talking the Jordan Peele movie?
Yes.
So you've seen it?
No.
Oh, okay.
I know about it, though.
Okay. I'll say that was going to shock, because I still haven't got around to seeing it. I missed it in theaters.
No, I missed it. We didn't get to see it in theaters, and so it actually came up on a Watch Mojo. Shout out to Watch Mojo. Me and Tad both like them. Top 10 list of best horror films of this decade. And the little bit that I caught, because I was trying to like plug my ears and not listen, but stuff gets through. A little bit that came through, I was like, oh, okay, so it's like that. It's not like a horror film like like Halloween, Jason, Freddy. That's slashers.
Yeah.
It's not like a American Werewolf in London. Okay, monster. The Creature from the Black Lagoon, monster. Stuff like that.
The Creepshow beast.
The Creepshow monkey beast thing. Yeah, you always got to bring that up.
Yeah.
But then you also have like the other realm, Insidious. Poltergeist, Exorcist, the possession.
I think those are way more in vogue right now.
Sure. Oh yeah, for sure. And so for me, I think there's this new genre creeping up, and it's not just in horror either. It's kind of like a conspiracy kind of thriller action kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think that Jordan Peele did a great job, from what I've heard about Us, being that kind of branch off from that subcategory genre into the horror side of it. But go back and look at, the last 20 years. There's been a lot of this, they're doing that to us? Oh, what a piece of shit government, or what a piece of shit organization, kind of thing. So I think that I look at stuff like The Institute, Firestarter. I look at like, do you remember the movie The Island with Ewan McGregor?
Yeah.
Where, it's like you can buy a clone, because in case if you need a kidney transplant, great, we'll just kill your clone and take the kidneys.
Yeah.
Conspiracy kind of thing like that. Like iRobot was one. I'm starting to like lump these into like the conspiracy movies. Like there's a conspiracy and it causes some kind of a catastrophe because of it.
Yeah.
Robots are trying to take over. there's clones that are trying to kill people. There's clones that are going to be killed to service other people. That kind of thing.
I have to bring up at least on today, the day after the anniversary of JFK's assassination, the film JFK by Oliver Stone has to
perfect.
be
That would be like the linchpin that kind of like starts this all kind of thing. It's like like, are they watching us?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd even go all the way back. What about Rear Window? Conspiracy. Like, oh, did he kill her? Did he not kill her? That kind of thing. It's a new category for me. I haven't really like branched this out. I've never talked to you about this before.
Yeah.
But it's something that really just kind of dawned on me with that discussion the other day at work about Us. It's just like, damn, there really is kind of a lot of movies about that kind of subject. So I look at stuff like Firestarter and stuff like that. And I think,
what about Salem's Lot?
Salem's Lot was the one I was about to point out next. That one with Mike Flanagan at the head. Oh damn.
Yeah.
Oh damn.
Yeah, I think that one has been mentioned a number of times. I've seen online for speculation and stuff, and it's definitely one that is very interesting to me. I would love to see Mike take on Salem's Lot for sure. I don't know. There's a number of things here that are in development that would be interesting.
Mark says in the chat, Duma Key.
Yeah.
I've never read Duma Key, so I don't even know what it's about.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think, like, what about some of those? There's like, I don't know. There's some stuff that could be remade too. I don't know. Yeah.
You could definitely do The Long Walk in kind of like that suspenseful horror, because I mean, like, the premise of The Long Walk.
Yeah,
right?
we've talked about it.
We talked about it when I read it through it and everything like that, and the people suggesting it to me. That definitely could be like a horror / thriller. Like, oh my god, these people are put into this kind of like Saw.
Yeah,
you're put into this horrible situation where if you don't do this, you're going to die.
Yeah,
kind of thing. So survival kind of horror kind of thing.
Yeah,
Flanagan could very well pull that off.
Yeah,
well.
I mean, if you're going to say Saw, I'm going to say Gerald's Game's right in the same vein as Saw.
Exactly. Yeah, someone's kind of like in a precarious situation, dealing with extreme circumstance.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I can see him doing that with Long Walk very well. Very, very well.
Yeah.
But if I had a pick of the litter for what's on this list, I mean, The Stand's gone because, I mean, who wouldn't love Mike Flanagan directing The Stand?
Yeah.
Let's be perfectly honest. Josh Boone, primo choice.
Yeah.
Primo choice.
I will say, I'd
Salem's Lot.
love to have a Dark Tower episode directed by him.
Fuck yeah, I would.
That would be pretty cool.
Heavily centered around Rhea the Coos and like the creep factor of like the spying on people.
Yeah, you'd have to give him one that was as horror based as you could find in that story.
The one with the thinny.
I mean, even what if we get seasons and you go down the road and you get into the future books? That would be
future books horror. You have the Dixie Pig would be an interesting thing for him to direct with his twisted mind.
Dude, what if he did Salem's Lot and then 6 years from now
Father Callahan
he does Father Callahan's story?
Oh, the vampires.
Dude, how cool would that be?
That'd be pretty dope.
Oh yeah. So yeah, that's the list. Nothing's changed date wise. So yeah.
From a Buick 8, I read that a long time ago, and if I remember right, that one is kind of like suspense thriller, little bit of horror / drama. That one wouldn't be, but yeah, if I had my pick, Salem's Lot.
Yeah, I think
there's the other
that's
thing.
A popular
also.
one.
There's the other thing also. What if it's something that hasn't come out yet from Cy King?
That's true too. That did enter my mind when I read that. Like
mean,
when he said like I'm talking to King about the next like whatever. I'm like, yeah, it could be the next novel.
What if it's the one that has the short stories coming out soon with Holly Gibney in it?
Yeah, could be.
What if it's something from that? You know?
Damn.
Flanagan, you tease.
Yeah, it's definitely a good tease. So hopefully we'll hear more about that in the coming future as to what he is going to be involved with. So next up, we have the one that I earlier read the headline for. Stephen King says Dr. Sleep film redeems Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. And this is by Clark Collis from Entertainment Weekly on November 5th, 2019. So again, this is before the movie, so no spoiler worries here. The Stephen King famously doesn't care for director Stanley Kubrick's 1980 adaptation of his classic horror novel, The Shining, about a family threatened by supernatural spirits and the father's own addiction issues at this remote overlooked hotel. In an interview with the Paris Review, the writer once described Kubrick as having, quote, no sense of emotional investment in the family whatsoever, and declared that he, quote, hated the results. Quote, and here's another quote from King. It's certainly beautiful to look at. Gorgeous sets, all those Steadicam shots, King continued. I used to call it a Cadillac with no engine in it. You can't do anything with it except admire it as a sculpture. You're taking away its primary purpose, which is to tell a story. The basic difference that tells you that all you need to know is the ending. Near the end of the novel, Jack Torrance tells his son that he loves him, and then he blows up the hotel. It's a very passionate climax. In Kubrick's movie, he freezes to death. So kind of an interesting, I don't know if I've ever heard that quote necessarily.
I haven't either, but just kind of interesting that everyone gives King such shit for his horrible, and I'm using air quotes, guys, horrible endings to his novels, and now he's saying that his ending was better than Kubrick's.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of cool, interesting to see how he views it. A little bit more.
That's you know, I love the Stanley Kubrick film, so I'm not saying that I agree with Cy King on this, but he's kind of got a point.
Yeah, I agree with both sides really. I'm gonna sit on the fence on this one. Like I love the film for what it is, but every time I read the book, I'm just like, man, I want to see this on screen.
Mm-hmm. It's an interesting dynamic to have that, where. For me, especially now that we have Dr. Sleep, I'm talking about the novel, not the movies.
Yeah.
Especially now that we have Dr. Sleep, The Shining definitely holds a different place in my heart for it because I love Dr. Sleep. I really do. Like, the novel is just so good.
Yeah.
And so, like King mentioned it, you know, the sacrifice at the end of the book weighs heavily on Danny going into Dr. Sleep.
Yeah.
Versus the movie not having that, where, you know, he doesn't snap out of it. He like King said, he freezes to death instead.
Yeah. He goes full Jack Nicholson and never comes
Yeah.
back. And then it goes on here. It says, when King wrote The Shining sequel, Dr. Sleep, a few years back, he deliberately set it in a world where the Overlook was destroyed. So how did writer Mike Flanagan convince King that his adaptation of Dr. Sleep, it says in parentheses, out November 8th, should also be a sequel to Kubrick's film, and that a hefty chunk of the film would be set in that in the still existing Overlook. And then a quote here says, I said, look, I'm a King fanatic. I have been since I'm a kid, and you're my hero. When I read Dr. Sleep, all the images in my head were Kubrick's images, said the filmmaker, whose other credits include the TV show The Haunting of Hill House, which, as a sidebar, I've been hearing a lot of good things about. I need to watch that. I mean, it got a lot of hype when it first came out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just, from horror fans and stuff, I've heard it's one of the better
It's
things.
a show?
Yeah.
The Haunting of Hill House?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's on Netflix. It's a Netflix exclusive. And it's Flanagan's baby. And a previous King adaptation, 2017, Gerald's Game. And then it goes on here. It says, quote, The Shining is so ubiquitous that it has burned itself into the collective imagination of people who love cinema in a way that so few movies have. There are no languages to tell that story in. Or there's no other languages to tell that story in. If you say Overlook Hotel, I see something. It lives right up here in my brain because Stanley Kubrick. You can't pretend this isn't the case. He was reluctant, and then I said, well, let me tell you how I would approach it. I pitched him one scene inside the Overlook. I said, the rest of the story I'm going to try and stay faithful as possible as I can, but the final fight will take place instead of on the grounds that used to be the Overlook. It's actually going to be inside the space of the hotel. I pitched him one scene, and then he thought about it, and then he came back and said, okay, then go ahead. So kind of giving some behind the scenes on that. And then it goes on here. It says, King says that he was won over by both Flanagan's track record and his screenplay for the movie. And then we have a quote from Cy King here. It says, I read the script to this one very, very carefully, the writer tells EW, because obviously I wanted it to do a good job with the sequel because people knew the book The Shining, and I thought I didn't want to screw this up. Mike Flanagan, I've enjoyed all of his movies, and I've worked with him before on Gerald's Game. So I read the script very, very carefully, and I said to myself, everything that I've ever disliked about Kubrick's version of The Shining is redeemed for me here. So that's
really cool.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. Then it says, goes on here, says Flanagan recalls that once he was given the blessing for the script, King kept his distance from the project. And then a quote here says, after he exercised his approval, he backed off, and he does that very intentionally, says the director. He says, the book is the book, and I want the movie to be yours. I don't want to interfere. But you know that that as soon as he's done, he's going to see it, and you know that because of what's happened with The Shining, that if he doesn't like it, or if he doesn't like what you do, he's not going to be shy about it.
Yeah.
So there's this huge fear, even though even though he's not over your shoulder. There's a sense every day that he's going to be seeing this movie. Just as a fan, I didn't know if I was going to recover if he watched the movie and felt the same way that he did about The Shining.
He may not be watching you take the test, but he's definitely going to be grading it.
He's going to be grading it, and he's king. Like, he doesn't pull punches.
No,
like, he says what he says what he wants, and that's that one thing about him. It says, fortunately for Flanagan, King did enjoy Dr. Sleep, which he watched in the company of the filmmaker. And then it goes on here as a quote. It says, "This was really cool," said the director. "I finished the movie. I brought the film to Bangor," and then in parentheses it says Maine, where King lives. And then, for God's sake, do we really need to have that typed into the thing? I mean, maybe there's like non-King people, but like how?
Come on, man.
Yeah, come on. That's like saying like New York City, and then in parentheses, this is in New York State. And I show him Dr. Sleep. I sat with him in an empty theater. We watched the movie, and I watched the movie with him. I spent the whole movie trying not to throw up and staring at my own feet and kind of overanalyzing every single noise he made next to me. The film ended and the credits came up, and I leaned over and he put his hand on my shoulder and he said, "You did a beautiful job." And then I just died. The rest of the day we talked about Kubrick. We talked about his other adaptations. We talked a lot about modern politics and Trump and about the state of the world. We talked about the show about shows on Netflix we liked, and we talked about and we just talked. He was like, quote, "Having watched the film, it actually warms my feeling up toward Kubrick's film." And then that's the end of the King quote within the Flanagan quote. And then Flanagan goes on here and says, "That's when I really kind of freaked out. The whole goal from the beginning was to inch those two back together in a way to reconcile the gulf distance between Kubrick's The Shining and King's The Shining. If there was ever a way to do that, even a little, that's what I wanted as a fan." So that was kind of his goal, and to get that feeling from King is obviously a big moment for him.
What if Flanagan remakes The Shining?
Oh yeah, that's
oh damn.
That'd be my choice.
Oh shit, dude.
Yeah, that'd be my choice, man.
Could you imagine that?
I've been saying it for how long? Like, I want a Shining.
It'll never happen. I think that with those statements from King, that cements it for me that The Shining's never going to get remade.
I hope it does still. I really do.
I think that him like having closure, I think that makes it to where he's not going to be like, "Oh, you want to do it more true to the book? Great, let's do this. I want to get that closure."
Yeah.
He has that now. So I don't think that anyone's going to be able to come to him and say, "Hey, so I got this idea about The Shining,"
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I still hope to see it. But I don't know. But that is definitely a thought that I already had.
Is it
interesting? Yeah. And then it goes on here, says, quote, "I don't want to get into a big argument about how great The Shining film is that Kubrick did, or my feelings about it." King says, King, "All I can say is that Mike took my material. He created a terrific story. People who have seen this movie flip for it. And I flipped for it too, because he managed to take my novel, Dr. Sleep, the sequel, and somehow weld it seamlessly to Kubrick's version of The Shining, the movie. So yeah, I liked it a lot." So that's the last word
awesome.
from Cy King there. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool to hear. And again, all these articles have been coming out in advance of the film coming out. So next, I actually have it's actually a podcast that Mike Flanagan was a guest on, and it is it's an interview with Flanagan. The podcast is called Inside of You podcast, with Michael Rosenbaum as the host. So I have a couple clips from that.
Why do I know that name?
I don't know. I think I said he was a comedian and an actor, but I don't know that I knew him from any things. I don't even think I looked him up, but I think I looked him up to see a picture and went like, "No, it doesn't really strike me." But there's a couple clips I pulled out of the podcast that I wanted to share and discuss.
Okay.
So the setup for the first one, and for all of them, is the deeper voice guy that will start on the first clip is the host, is Michael Rosenbaum. Mike Flanagan comes in second. This is them talking about The Shining and how scary it was, even when you would not expect it to be scary. So that's kind of this clip. Let me go ahead and cue it up.
like the scene with Danny in The Shining with Mr. Hallerman, and he says to me, Mr. Hallerman, what's in room 247? Nothing. There ain't nothing in room 237. Got no business going in there.
Yeah.
That moment, that was scary. It was just two people talking. And I'm like, oh my God, I got goosebumps again.
And that's a story I desperately want to see on screen someday, is whatever happened to Dick Halloran in room 237 of the Overlook.
Oh,
I'm dying
it
to
gave
see
me more
that.
goosebumps.
Yeah.
See, I think that's...
Yeah, so that's there's that clip there. Let's see. I'm sorry. Someone jumped in the chat here. ZT. Great picks. I'm not sure if we talk about Mike here on the screen. But yeah. So what do you think of that clip?
Yeah, that's really cool.
So what's titillating to me is I've never really even considered that. To be honest with you, like what happened to Dick in room 237. I don't know why that's never even entered my mind.
Yeah.
Is Flanagan says that he wants to know what happened there and wants to see that. And I don't know why I've never thought about that in so many years of my life watching that movie. And like because I mean there is obviously a reaction from Dick, but I guess I always more have just thought it like I don't know, like a general overreaction versus the room itself. So yeah, I can only imagine what Mr. Dick Halloran saw in that room.
There we go. Flanagan's gonna do a Shining prequel about Dick Halloran.
Yeah, so that's
a young 20s, 30s chef coming to the Overlook.
Yeah, wasn't he in the Black Spot or involved in that in some way?
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's got a history. Okay, so the next clip is Mike talking about meeting Cy King for the first time. Let's go ahead and take a listen to that one.
You just said Stephen King half an hour later he was watching. Are you saying you didn't meet Stephen King till after the movie was made?
Yeah, the first time I met Steve was when I brought him Steve. I
now
can say
it's Steve.
I'm allowed. He made it clear that he was sick of me just looking at him and saying the words Stephen King. So he said, please just call me Steve. But the first time I met him is when I brought him Dr. Sleep, and I screened the movie for him.
And he loved it.
He did love it, which was crazy.
Yeah, so that's that clip there. Interesting that he hadn't met King, in person until showing in the movie. That's got to be crazy. And then the last one here is actually probably my favorite from the whole podcast here. And I'll have a link in the show notes to this whole podcast so you can go and listen to it. I'd highly recommend it, especially if you're a fan of Mike, if you're a fan of the other stuff he's done. If you're a horror movie fan especially, both these guys are horror movie fanatics and they kind of nerd out on some stuff. They threw out some recommendations, including an Australian horror movie that apparently they both said was really good. And I had never heard of it, and it came out like in 2008, and I'm like, it's on my list now of like
Black Sheep?
No, that was New Zealand. It was called Lake, Lake something now.
Lake I'm Gonna Kill You? I mean, it's Australia, right?
Yeah, it's, I don't know. Let me see if I still have it in my search history. Lake, I can't remember it now, and it's not pulling up. We got a couple Australians in the chat. Anyone remember a movie from, you said the late 2000s? 2008, yeah.
2008 around
right
there.
Horror movie.
Lake something?
Mapo, or I can't remember it. It's a weird name. Mungo. That's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lake Mungo.
Our Aussie chat members come through.
They both mentioned loving that, and I'm just like, and just the rest of the conversations that they had up to before they even got into Dr. Sleep or Shining stuff. I'm just like, dude, these guys are both like horror movie like nuts. Like, and so when they're both like, dude, this movie was great, I'm like, I gotta watch that. So yeah, I don't know that. So yeah, throwing it out there to anyone else. If you're a horror movie fan, watch it. But definitely listen to this podcast. I would give it a huge recommend. But let's go ahead and listen to the third clip here. I think this is a really good one.
You love The Shining, the movie.
Yes.
In so many ways. Now, I would think that someone who loved the movie, Stephen, would have a problem with directing the sequel to The Shining. Considering that he didn't have a good relationship with Kubrick, considering that his screenplay or the book was nothing like the movie. So you think that would be Stephen King's, or as you know him, Steve, would just look at you and say, "Let me ask you a question. Did you like The Shining?" "Yep. Thank you. Nice meeting you."
Yeah, it was quite a conversation, and I was so freaked out about it. It wouldn't have happened except he loved Gerald's Game. And
Who doesn't love If you haven't seen it, it's on Netflix still, right?
It is, yes.
Gerald's
Forever,
Game. What a
actually,
surprise, because you don't think that movie's going to... Yeah, well, go ahead with the Stephen King story. We'll get into Gerald's Game.
So he was happy enough with that when Warner Brothers had said, hey, Flanagan might want to do Dr. Sleep, he was like, great. But he didn't know what I wanted to do with it, which was kind of folded into the Kubrick universe. Because, in the book, like you said, it's so different. The Overlook burned down, Dick Halloran's alive, everything's different. And so I had to get in touch with him and say, hey, before we proceed on this, before you endorse it, I just need your blessing on something you might not like. And
Oof.
his initial reaction was like, no, I don't like that. But
what was it? You can't tell, really.
Yeah, I
haven't seen it. I don't want you to tell.
I can tell a little bit at this point. It's out tonight.
But I haven't even watched the trailer purposely.
Oh, wow.
Because I don't watch trailers because there's something I'm not excited about. I want to be surprised by everything.
All right, then I'm going to be really careful. I'll be
really careful.
Yeah. So I pitched him a scene. You'll know which one when you see the film. And I said, what I want to do, for me, the only difference I would make to Dr. Sleep novel is the location of the third act. And for me, I thought that would be awesome to stage in the abandoned Overlook Hotel of Kubrick's world. And he had a lot of questions about how that could work. He wasn't really keen on it, but I pitched him one scene. And
he wasn't king on it.
And the pitch went over, and he said, okay, do that. Proceed, but let me read it. So then it was about the script, and I sent the script, and I freaked out. And he came back and said, look, I actually really like this.
Really?
Yeah.
So you had really one shot.
Yeah.
So you had the nail. How many people read this before you said, okay, I'm going to give it to Steven?
2. My producer, Trevor Macy, who's produced everything I've done
Oculus,
since Oculus.
everything,
yeah.
Right.
So Trevor read it, and my wife read it. And then I sent it off to King. And then...
how long before you respond?
Almost 2 weeks.
Fucking dude.
Well,
fucking.
I know.
Fucking.
It was and he had written about a day after he had received it. He's like, "Look, I'm halfway through it, and I love this so far, but my son Joe's getting married, so I got to go do that. Might be a minute before I get back to you." And everything he was going to hate was in the back half. So I was like, "Oh shit!" So I sweat bullets on that for a while, but he came back. He loved it. By then, I'd given it to Warner Brothers, and they'd kind of all decided to do the movie. And when he finally came back and kind of was like, yes, you have my blessing to do this draft, right, he qualified it by saying, look, I really love this, and I think it's so good. In my experience, this is not the kind of movie a big studio will make. And I got to say right back, like, so funny you say that, they greenlit it this morning off the same draft you read. And
well, how about that?
Yeah, but if he hadn't had signed off on what we wanted to do, I wouldn't have made it.
So yeah, that's a little bit of a longer clip. I thought it was really interesting.
Dude, fuck yeah, dude. Flanagan is seriously going up in my book.
Yeah.
Like, my God, that how he acted, that's me.
Yeah.
Like, if King came to me and was like, hey, write a Dark Tower, like, I come to King and I say, hey, I'm thinking about doing a Dark Tower movie. He's like, no, they've been shit before,
Yeah.
I don't like it, I don't like how the last one turned out. So like, well, I'm gonna change your mind.
Yeah.
Like the confidence in Mike to do that.
Yeah.
And then to do it. I mean,
yeah. Yeah, so that's and then like I love that last bit too, that if King wouldn't have given him the blessing, he would have
yeah, because that would be me 100%. If I'm like, hey, the Dark Tower, we had Roland, we had Jake go through the door at the very end. I'm thinking about picking that up and going into Wastelands. He's like, no, you need to read. Okay, all right, let's do it. That's what I'll do. Then I'll go back to the studio and I'll say that's what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
And if they don't like it, okay, then I won't make it.
Yeah.
That would be me. It's because it is. It's King.
Yeah.
Steve.
Well, not to you.
Not to me.
To Flanagan it is.
To Flanagan, it's Steve.
It's like every time I hear like someone that is talking about like Steven Spielberg and like, oh yeah, I worked with Steve a few times. I'm like, motherfucker.
Steven.
Yeah, it's like I'm only mad at them because they can call him Steve because he's
jealous.
It's like, man, can you imagine being at that level where you're just like, oh yeah, Steve,
Steve who? Oh, you know Spielberg?
Yeah.
You mean Steven Spielberg?
Yeah. Indeed. So that's really cool. I'll have a link in the show notes for that podcast. I highly recommend it to everyone. It was really cool. And like they mentioned there too, they do get into Gerald's game as well. So I just think it's a great interview. And like you said, but I said in the same thing after listening to the whole thing. I'm just like, I love this guy.
Yeah.
You know, like you said that just hearing a couple clips, but me at the end, I'm just like, this is my kind of people, man. Like horror fan. He's done, he's 2 for 2 in my book for Stephen King.
Yeah, 2 for 2 way good films.
Yeah.
We're not talking about Gerald's Game in this podcast, but if you haven't seen it, I mean,
dude, that gave me the heebie-jeebies in Gerald's Game.
It's
that
so good.
Demon fucking thing. Yeah, that was quite the gangle creature, as it were. Yeah. So still gotta let's see. I'm trying to think if we got one more. One more I think article that was before. And this is kind of funny because this is actually following up on something I believe we talked about in the last episode. We talked about I wasn't super happy with the way the marketing was going.
With
didn't we bring with the Dr. Sleep?
Oh, Dr. Sleep, yeah.
Didn't we? I know I tweeted it, but I feel like we talked about it on the show too. So this is actually an article that came out the day of the release of the film, or maybe the day after, but it doesn't really take into account the movie itself. It's more talking about, looks like something that probably should have been released like before the movie came out, but it didn't. And it's how Warner Brothers revived The Shining to help sell Dr. Sleep. By Chris Thilk from The Hollywood Reporter on November 9th, 2019. It says author Stephen King has never been a fan of Stanley Kubrick's 1980 adaptation of The Shining, publicly citing the liberties from the film took with the 1977 source material. Now writer-director Mike Flanagan is bringing a sequel to the screen with Dr. Sleep, an adaptation of King's 2013 follow-up. The story focuses on an adult Danny Torrance, Ewan McGregor, who has spent 30 years since the events that transpired in the Overlook Hotel, drifting and trying to deal with the fallout. He meets a young girl named Abra Stone, and that's played by Kylie Curran, and who has powers even greater than his own, and who is being stalked by a secretive group called the True Knot, and their leader Rose the Hat, played by Rebecca Ferguson. Warner Brothers' marketing and promotional campaign has used connections to the original film to make the audience understand that this is a sequel, but that has come at the expense of explaining the movie's characters and story. Below is a closer look at the rollout, and I'm taking some points from this whole thing. I don't think I took everything. But the first one is the posters, and I have a screen thing for that. It says a familiar word is shown on the first poster by marketing agency Cold Open, which was revealed in early June. While it looks like red rum from the perspective of the camera, the fact that the release date and the other copy at the bottom is backwards makes it clear that you're looking at it from behind, and the words read very differently the other way around. And that is the middle poster that we're talking about here. In early October, 2 posters came out that evoke The Shining even more overtly. The first has a message that applies to the audience as well as Danny Torrance, Dare to Go Back. The adult Danny is shown walking down a hallway at the Overlook towards his childhood self, seen with his back to the camera as he's riding his scooter. It's drenched in red like the blood that washes through the hallway in one of the original movie's key sequences. The second poster by marketing agency Bond uses the same tagline but brings back elements used on the poster for the first movie, showing Danny's face through the crack in the background, similar to how his father looked through the door when he broke it while chasing his family around the hotel. Even the bright yellow color is a callback to one of the original movie's posters. The 2 more posters were released in late October. One seems to be attempting to appeal to the fans of body horror subgenre by showing Danny with his eyes removed and replaced by a scrawl red rum letters. Danny is upside down on the second, with his eyes appearing over the hands of the young boy below him. The boy's face is obscured. These 2 use the tagline, "Fear never sleeps." I find that really interesting with those last 2, because I don't know if I ever saw those ones.
I didn't.
But it's interesting because it's like how you appeal to different audiences, because like fans of more modern stuff, like if they saw those 2 on the right, they would probably be maybe more likely to go see it. But then it goes on. It goes into the trailer. It says the trailer, Danny Torrance is living his life as best he can in the trailer. 11 million views on YouTube from June. It opens, still doing a lot of writing on the wall, it seems. The mysterious incident leaves a familiar phrase in a crack. in a cracked wall that starts to get things weird, including Danny meeting Abra, who figures out the two of them have a lot in common. It's clear there are dangerous people out there to get those who shine, and we see Danny recounting the trauma of his childhood that first awakened his abilities, events that he still grapples with, but which seem to be ready to come back to haunt him. Second trailer, 7 million views on YouTube, released in September, immediately got Danny back into the Overlook Hotel, talking about the things that still live there and that he remembered from his childhood. He's shown to be on the run, but finds others like him, some of whom are very dangerous. Those people are after Abra, and he agrees to help her by taking her to the Overlook, which brings back all sorts of traumatic memories for Danny. So that's kind of a recap of the two trailers. No, Josh, we're not talking about spoiler stuff yet. Just talking about an article here from right around the time of the release of the movie, looking at the ad campaign basically of the film. And the next says advertising and publicity. Flanagan kicked off the movie's press tour while at a special event at the Stanley Hotel, the Colorado resort that once again stands in for the Overlook, as it did 30 years ago. On Halloween, Warner Brothers held a fan screening in Canada that included appearances by Flanagan and Curran and featured a recreation of the Overlook's famous bar. And then at the end here, overall, kind of to recap it says, in part, the campaign's regular callbacks to the events The Shining may have worked against it. In the promos, at least, the motivation of the antagonists aren't clearly explained. Neither is it that Danny, whose arc is sometimes confusing and his motivation's unclear. So basically saying that we don't really get a sense of what Danny's purpose is from the trailers and from the marketing stuff, and we don't know much. We're losing that in the marketing a little bit. It says, still, the movie has one thing going for it that clearly sets it apart from the original, Stephen King's endorsement. He's not only been a part of the campaign by appearing in featurettes and more, but he also praised it to his 5.5 million Twitter followers, hoping to turn them out. You read Dr. Sleep's synopsis. It's clear that Danny's story is one of surviving PTSD, sometimes in destructive ways, until he finds help that he needs to do something more with his life. That could be a message that resonates with a large section of the audience, but it has mostly been sidelined by all the callbacks to The Shining. So kind of just a cool blow-by-blow look at the ad campaign. And, I guess I didn't even really go that deep into it when I was expressing my concerns. But, really he's getting to the heart of it all is that going into it, I don't think there's a lot of people that had any idea of what this movie was about.
Yeah.
Overall, it was so, because it was so reliant on The Shining. As a nerd, I love like that yellow poster is probably my favorite of the whole mix of posters they did. So I'm not completely against the use of some of the also. I just felt it was overdone. I love the theme usage in the trailers was great, but I just feel like it was like 80% Shining and 20% Dr. Sleep in the ad campaign, that it just got to a point where it's like, man, like I don't know if that was the right choice or not. So.
No, I got you. And yeah, we talked about this last time. Not last time, the time before that.
Yeah, on a round table.
Yeah, it was the round table before the Institute, Unfound Door. And, so, we can't go into, like, what happened when we saw it, and our reaction yet, so.
So Josh asked, the Stanley is the one in Estes Park or somewhere else? I think the Stanley's the one in Colorado, but it says that this talks about it being the stand-in for the hotel, but like in my recollection, the one in Colorado is the one that King based the book on, and it has no visual anything close to what it actually looks like in the film. And I believe the one they used to film, I thought, was in Oregon. The one that they actually used to like the exterior for the thing. The Stanley Hotel is like, I think that's the one that like Stephen King stayed in, where he's like, it was like late in the year, so they were like getting everyone out and they were loading shit out and stuff, and I think there may have been even some alleged hauntings at that hotel, but I don't think the Stanley is the exterior, even though this article seems to portray that it is. See, it's like white with, that's not.
Well, that's what it looks like now, not, 1980.
No, I'm pretty sure that the Stanley is so this article, I think, is crossing its wires, because, you just showed me the picture. The Stanley
is in Etsy Park, Colorado.
Yes, and that's the one that inspired King and the novel. But the one that Kubrick actually uses for the exterior, the interior is all studio and stuff, or sets, not necessarily in an actual hotel, as far as I understand it. But the exterior stuff for the hotel, I believe, is in Oregon, if memory serves. But yes, Josh, Estes Park is where the Stanley is at. And I want to go stay there.
although the film, this is from a Google search for the Shining film location. Thank you, movie locations website. It doesn't say like the full website. It says movie. Although the film was shot almost entirely in the studio at Elstee Studio in Hertfordshire, England, where the hotel interior was constructed, the exterior of the Overlook is the Timberland Lodge, Mount Hood, in the Hood River area of Northern Oregon.
Okay.
2 points for Tad and his trivia knowledge.
Yeah. Once you said the name, that jogged my memory too. But yes, the Stanley though that's the inspiration. That's the one that King was at that place late in the year, saw everyone loading out, and thought like, this is weird. Like, normally this would be a bustling hotel, but like it looks like the Titanic and everyone's getting out. And
now
that
in the
inspired
article,
him to write the
article.
novel.
It's talking about where they had the event.
Let's see. I can't remember. I believe it said Colorado.
Because the event was hosted in Colorado, and I know that because I watched part of it.
Okay.
So the screening event did take place at the
advertising and publicity. Kicked off the Stanley Hotel. The Colorado Resort once again stands in for the Overlook, which that's where it's
crossing.
Yeah,
it does not.
It doesn't stand.
It never appear. Oh wait, maybe it does in Does it in Doctor Sleep?
No, they use the same. They use the
same one.
Yeah, they use the Timberland. Okay. So, I mean, yeah, just that's trivia, but yeah.
But yeah, because like I watched a couple of the guys that I like from that gaming group that I told you about a while back. They got invited out to the Doctor Sleep thing, and there was a part of it. They do a scavenger hunt.
Yeah,
at the hotel, where it's like, like if you wanted to have a drink, go here, and you have to go to the bar, and then you have to answer like a Shining trivia question. When they went to go start it, they had different groups. They had like YouTube bloggers and famous people and reporters there, and they were breaking up into groups to do the scavenger hunt. While they're doing it, all of a sudden it's handy cam, like someone's just holding a camera recording this. All of a sudden it just pauses, and it's like a voiceover comes over. We just wanted to point out that through the whole of this, no one noticed that that's Mike Flanagan. And like an arrow's like, ding, and it points Mike Flanagan. He's just standing on the porch like some creepy motherfucker just overwatching all of this.
You know what I picture is that long shot of Jack looking out the window when he's got like that really like crazy look. It's when they're in the maze, right? It's when his family's out in the maze.
Yeah.
And he's just like
staring.
He has a black sweater on. Yeah. Like, I just picture that.
I mean, like he wasn't like distance away from people. Like he was just happened to be standing there.
Yeah.
But it's like in post-production when they were putting the video together, they're like, holy fuck, that's the director that got up and introduced this film. Because they screened the film there in Colorado.
Yeah.
And so like in post-production, they just felt like calling it out like, there's the director watching all of this unfold.
Yeah, I will say the Stanley does get a lot of renown for being the hotel that inspired the novel. And if you want to stay in room 217, again, that doesn't mean anything for book or for movie people, but for the book people is. Last I looked into it, you had to make your reservations a year in advance to get room 217. Which is funny because like Kubrick was told not to use room 217 for his adaptation because they were concerned that nobody would ever want to stay in the room. In real life, so they made it 237, and it just makes me think like now I gotta wait a year to get 217 to get that room if I wanted to go stay at the Stanley in Colorado, which I'm going to do at one point. Mark my words.
So,
and it does play 20. It plays the Shining on repeat on one channel. You turn it on, it's on all the time, which is the way life should be, right?
Yeah. There was one part of that where they went down into like the basement part of the hotel, which is never in the film, and like there's this like tunnel which is like into the foundation, and there's like these little rocks like pebbled around, and it's like, oh, can I take one of these as a souvenir? And the tour guide's like, technically yes, but you don't want to. He's like, why? She goes, well, about 95% of people who do take a souvenir end up mailing it back because they get creepy vibes from it. I'm just like, that's just so fucking perfect for a hotel.
Yeah,
that was the basis for The Shining. Like, the fact that like that's on film. Like she tells him, like, yeah, people will mail it back.
The cynic in me thinks they just say that so people don't steal towels.
Yeah, no shit.
Like, if you steal anything from our hotel, you will be haunted.
Yeah, no
it's a perfect hotel thing to say. Because like the shampoos, everyone's always stealing something from a hotel. Like it's just what people do.
The bathrobe.
Yeah, like the bed.
You just see him going out the window with it. Sir, can I help you? No, we got it. Thanks.
And then Josh says, I used to go to SD Park all the time when I was young, and my family always told me it's the one they used to that they used in the film was the one at SD Park. Yeah, and I think people could cross the wires a bit, but yeah. So you got Oregon for the film, the real hotel that inspired the book and Stephen King, and I believe he stayed in room 217. I think that's why he picked that for the whatever. So like it's one of those things that it's definitely they both get a rub from the Shining in their own way. So that's that article. So now we're getting into post-release, but no spoilers yet. So don't worry about that because I guess we got some box office to talk about. I don't know how much you've heard.
No,
haven't heard anything. Okay. So, what's funny is I was even looking when they were talking about this, the trailers here.
It said like 7 million views.
11 million on the first one and 7 million on the second.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably not a good sign.
Tapered off.
To lose, 11 million seems low because like what was the fucking like when the first
and something
it was like
30 minutes.
Yeah, like anymore that's they use that as a barometer for like how a movie might do based on like the analytics of like social media engagement and stuff. And that reading this, I already had it in my head what happened box office wise, but reading that and seeing those numbers, I was like, ooh. But yeah, so let's jump into the box office and then we'll get into spoilers once we're done talking about this. First headline: Dr. Sleep set to lose $20 million for Warner Brothers in a trio of fall duds. But Joker and It Chapter 2 to deliver $600+ million in profit. This is by Anthony D. Alessandro from Deadline on November 10th, 2019. So this is Sunday of the opening weekend. Usually by Sunday you have a pretty good idea what the weekend's going to look like. It says finance sources tell us today that Warner Brothers weekend, and I'll pause one second. The reason earlier I told everyone that hasn't seen it yet to go see it and see it quick, part of the reason why it's not doing well, so it probably isn't going to be on screens for that long. It's not going to be like It, where you're going to be able to go see it around Christmas time or whatever. Like it's probably going to be gone here in the next couple weeks. So go see it if you want to see it in theaters.
Currently sitting at 12th in the box office right now.
Yeah, it says financial source tells today that Warner Brothers weekend of Stephen King's upset Dr. Sleep is poised to lose around $20 million after ancillaries, and if it should earn $100 million at the global box office. So if it earns $100 million, it'll be a $20 million loss for them for overall with things. It says if ticket sales are lower in the 80 million range, then the losses could swell to 30+ million. This comes after a grand underperformance of the mid 50 million Warner Brothers horror production, a studio which often has home run hits with the horror field under its New Line label. It says, by comparison, the reboot of King's Pet Sematary from Paramount made over $112 million worldwide back in the spring, off of $21 million production costs. I hear Warner suits are baffled and saddened by how a well-received, 74% fresh, and good audience-polled movie like Dr. Sleep with a B+ cinema score and a 4-star, 82% fresh on post-track just bombed. This one will have them Monday morning quarterbacking. Estimates figure that Dr. Sleep will clear $149 million in revenue from global theatrical rentals, global fees and paid TV, global home entertainment, including streaming. Next to combined production. Let's see, and basically overall if all things considered, they're thinking it's going to end up making around 149 in the end of it all. But the cost of it is around 171 million with all things considered. So yeah. Not good. Not good, unfortunately. So I'll go on. I have a couple different articles that grab different things here. This next one, box office, Dr. Sleep's dismal 14 million debut terrifies Hollywood by Pamela McClintock from Hollywood Reporter on November 11th. Says heading into the weekend, the sequel to The Shining was expected to open to a 25 million or more. The Veterans Day box office turned into a bloody battleground for a slew of films, unable to break through and convince consumers to turn out in multiplex in force. The timing could not have been worse, considering that Disney Plus, a symbolic reminder of the encroachment of streaming, launches November 12th. The biggest shock was Stephen King adaptation Dr. Sleep, a sequel to The Shining that has been tracking to debut at a 25 million to 30 million opening weekend. The R-rated horror thriller Boasted all the right credentials, good reviews, Stephen King brand, backing from Warner Brothers, home of their horror label New Line. Instead, Dr. Sleep went into a coma. It opened with $14.1 million domestically and lost to Roland Emmerich's big-budget indie spectacle Midway, which took $17.5 million. So not only did it not do well, but Midway beat it for opening weekend.
Wow.
That's unfortunate. But then in parentheses, just to give us a little bit of maybe Schadenfreude here. Not that Midway is a victory, considering it was a $100 million production. So,
yeah.
Pretty poor weekend. That was the top two. Was a $17 million movie to $14 million movie. That's pretty
the top two for the weekend.
The weekend, yeah. So
holy shit!
Everything that opened this weekend and things like Terminator that were carrying into their third or fourth weekends all did terrible. As executives at Warner Brothers didn't do their usual rounds of Sunday morning box office calls and behind the scenes scrambled to understand what went wrong. The studio has suffered a string of misses in the past few months. Exceptions include Joker, which is days away from clearing 1 billion globally. And
wow.
It Chapter 2, another King adaptation that earned $460 million to date. Joker alone will spin off profits of $600 million or more than enough to absorb any losses from The Goldfinch and Dr. Sleep, which cost a net $47 million to produce after rebates and tax incentives. Put another way, on the same weekend, and then she kind of goes in a little bit to talk about that this isn't necessarily a bad weekend, because I think some people would think like, oh, it's just a shitty weekend, like, don't do a lot of business. Like, there are weekends like that just, they're dead zones. Like, people don't expect movies there, or you don't put movies out there for a reason. A lot of times, like, they're like, you ever notice, like in the summer, sometimes you'll see a little bit of a blank one weekend. A lot of times that's because that's when they figure is like some of the first warm weather.
Yeah.
People aren't going to go to a theater when it starts to get warm.
They're going to go outside.
Yeah, Christmas, like, if you don't have a family, you're not going to release a horror movie on Christmas because everyone's with their families. If they're going to go to the theaters, they're going to go to see something that the whole family can see. So there's just certain things you can expect, but this isn't one of those. Just put another way, on the same weekend a year ago, The Grinch Who Stole Christmas debuted at $67 million, while Bohemian Rhapsody grossed $31 million in its second weekend. So just to give you an example of this weekend not being bad, and 2 years ago on the same weekend, Thor Ragnarok, then in its sophomore outing, collected $57 million, followed by $29.7 million opening for holiday themes Daddy's Home 2, and $28.7 million launched for Murder on the Orient Express. So it's, I mean, even the third ranked movie a few years back beats both these movies. So yeah, Midway and Dr. Sleep hit theaters 1 week after Terminator Dark Fate bombed globally in its global debut. In an era where known IP is a golden standard for Hollywood, Dark Fate and Dr. Sleep were especially bitter pills to swallow. Warner was so keen on Dr. Sleep that the movie studio chief Toby Emmerich had already struck a deal with director Mike Flanagan and his Intrepid Pictures to script a sequel whose working title, Halloran, draws from the character who appears in both The Shining and Dr. Sleep.
Hey, that's what I said earlier.
Yeah. So that's probably not going to happen at this point, though, would be my guess. And I don't think that is what he's in talks with King about, would be my estimation. So going on here, box office analysts say Dr. Sleep ran too long, roughly 151 minutes. And many members of the millennial and Gen Z generations aren't necessarily familiar with The Shining, 1979, which that's 1980. I don't know why they got that wrong. Which was directed by Stanley Kubrick and starred Jack Nicholson and Shelley Duvall. Quote, The Shining, despite being a cult classic, just doesn't have traction with younger audiences. 39 years is too long to wait between sequels, says Jeff Bach of Exhibitor Relations. And then adds Wall Street analyst Eric Handler. I thought Dr. Sleep would do well. This type of film out of this weekend seemed like a good fit for the schedule, including even Playing with Fire, which had no competition in the family category. Are people only looking for blockbusters right now? That's an interesting question to ask.
Yeah.
And then I just as an example, I wanted to look at the weekend because and then one article that I didn't grab mentioned that this weekend originally was going to, or the weekend that we're talking about here, not the weekend that we're actually on. The weekend that Dr. Sleep opened originally was going to have Wonder Woman 1984 was supposed to open that date, as well as Bond 25, which is No Time to Die is now the title of it. We're both set for that date. So chances are those both would have killed it at the box office.
Oh, yeah.
But both those got moved back for various reasons. So overall, here's the top 5 for Veterans Day weekend all time gross. Skyfall 2012 did $88 million. Thor: Dark World is number 2, did $85 million in 2013. Dr. Seuss's The Grinch, it was in 2018 was $67.6 million. Quantum of Solace in 2008 was $67 million. 2012 and 2009 was $65 million. And then, as mentioned in the article, that was the top 5. Number 6 was Ragnarok, and its second weekend got $57 million that weekend. So like, it's not a bad weekend usually. So it's kind of perplexing to a lot of people. And I wanted to look at where does that leave us for all-time King box office? Because we actually talked about this going into the Dark Tower movie. So that would have been a couple years ago now. Where do we sit on that? Because I think we had talked about it before it even came out. Because we had even anticipated. I remember saying that like all this is going to go out the window once it comes out.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's go ahead and take a look at these numbers just because I'm a nerd and I actually find this kind of stuff interesting. Hopefully everyone else does too. Number 1 is It, the first part. Domestic, it took $327 million. Overall, it did $700 million worldwide. It Chapter 2 comes in at number 2 with $211 million and $466 million worldwide. The Green Mile at $136 and $290. 1408 from 2008 did $71 million and $131 million total. Misery did $61 million. So it's kind of interesting how quick that drops off when you look at that those numbers and how they're kind of tracking. Then 89 Pet Sematary did $57.4 million. Pet Cemetery, the new one, did $54 million. I'm more looking at domestic now, just for brevity's sake. Stand By Me, $52 million. The Dark Tower, $50 million. Secret Window, 47, or basically $48 million, just under 48. The Shining is actually rounding it out here with that's number 11. I'm sorry. So I added number 11 because it's The Shining, and that's should bear some like impact on it, even though it was a long time ago, 1980. 44 million is what it did, with only 727,000 worldwide, which is interesting. So 44.7 is what it did internationally. And so that's kind of where we're sitting at with all time Stephen King box office, and this is something that we might track. I'd like to see once it completely wraps its run, where it sits, and then see how things go going forward. And interestingly, Dr. Sleep is actually with only a couple weekends, I think only a couple weekends, it's showing 27 million and 56 million domestic and international respectively. Right now, even only a couple weekends in, it already ranks number 17 on the list, which I don't have up on the screen right now. But so it's just kind of interesting that, man, King, like, he's definitely not Marvel or Star Wars or, things that are like, overall, like, kind of crazy. But yeah, that's kind of where Dr. Sleep's at. Didn't do great in the box office, but it's kind of interesting because it did well. I mean, but that isn't even in a poor company because, I mean, Shawshank flopped in the box office, like, not in here at all, but it flopped in the time period too. Like, it got Oscar nominations and stuff. Didn't win anything of note, but it's like everyone loved it, but nobody watched it. Not a lot of people watched it back then. So it's not even necessarily unusual in the realm of Stephen King. Ultimately, I look at it as no big deal because, like, finances, I don't know, they don't always track with good movies. I mean, I only found out this year. I never knew that the Thing, the John Carpenter film, that was actually a flop.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. I just assumed that's why
that's why it's called a cult classic, because cult classics really don't do well in the box office.
I mean, I don't even know if I'd ever call that cult. I'd call it like one of the greatest horror movies of all time.
Yeah,
like,
but it's definitely a cult following because, like you said, it doesn't do well in the box office.
Yeah, I never knew that. It was kind of crazy, but so that's sad. Overall,
Mark pointed out that the list you read for Veterans Day weekend was all franchises or remakes.
Yeah, that's true. And then Mark says the most famous flop was Shawshank for sure. And then he says Unreal, that this movie was terrific, the best Stephen King adaptation in the new King-a-thon. So yeah, I think ultimately this is the spot where we're going to warn everyone about spoilers, because we're going to transition now into Dr. Sleep conversation in terms of the film itself. So anyone that has not seen it, either don't listen at this point and come back and listen to the rest of this episode after you've seen the movie. Or if you're one that hasn't seen it but don't mind, you can continue listening, obviously, if you want. But we are going to spoil freely from this point on, and I actually have a slide here. Dr. Sleep spoiler discussion. Nice big bold letters, nice red text there. So so we're going to jump into that. So anyone in the chat, if you want to clear out. So, and podcast wise too, podcast is easier because you can just pause it and then come back and listen to it after you've seen the movie. Live stream people, you'll have to find this point in the timeline and figure out where we cut off.
Look for the picture.
Yeah, if you're on YouTube, just look for the picture. Yeah, indeed. If you're on the normal podcast, just fast forward it. We're getting approaching the 2-hour mark according to the YouTube timestamp. Might be a little bit different for the thing. So I'd probably say, right around the 150 mark is where it's showing for YouTube. For the normal podcast, the way things work is we talk a little bit off before the podcast starts, quote unquote, on the live stream, the pre-show type stuff. So I'd say you're probably shave 5-10 minutes off of that. So yeah, probably in the 145 realm. So yeah, let's jump into it. So I have some questions. I also have a list of Easter eggs.
Excellent.
So yeah, let's even just talk about the Easter eggs first, and then we can jump into the questions. Easter eggs are fun, easy. Overall, let me just ask, as a side tangent to the Easter eggs, what did you feel of them? Because I feel like sometimes Easter eggs can be very on the nose and almost just like, and other times they're just like earned. They feel better. Like, what did you feel with these ones?
I liked them. I didn't have any that were like, oh, come on. Yeah. So for me, they were all pretty good.
Okay. So any that jump to mind, I have the list here, but I mean, it's been a couple weeks now since we watched it. I had every intention to watch it this weekend myself, just to see it again, to be fresh. But I mean, the Mr. Rogers movie came out this weekend. God, I can't remember what else I saw now.
Ford versus Ferrari
was last weekend. Something else, and then I went and saw The Irishman last night in theater. So it's like, and that's a 3.5 hour movie. So it's like, I didn't have time to go see it again. So I'm on the same realm as you in terms of freshness. So
I know there was a couple that really jumped out at me. I cannot think of like any.
Can't remember them.
Yeah.
Okay. So the first one I have written down is Tet Transit is the name of the bus company.
Oh yeah,
the bus that both Dan and Abra take at different points in the movie. Lemerck Industries owns the area where the baseball boy is killed. I actually missed that the first time we saw the sign. It wasn't until the second time that I caught it. I don't know why. I was just kind of taking in the whole frame, I think. So I just kind of missed the name on the sign. Because it didn't say something like abandoned. It had something on the sign that kind of gave you a sense that it wasn't like active.
Closed until further notice.
Yeah, I think I was so focused on that I missed the name.
That's what she was saying. She's like, she says Lemerck, but then she also says, closed until further notice. Yes, this is the spot.
Yeah, but when I'm talking about even just the frame that showed the sign, so it wasn't until a second shot of the sign where I was like, oh shit, that says Lemerck.
Yeah. I just remembered one. We talked about this when we came out of the theater. Abra's house number is 1980.
Yeah, which is the year the Shining came out.
Yep.
This is an interesting one, and I actually missed, but I found it on the old interwebs. When they're leaving the theater with the new True Knot character,
Andy.
That's her name? Andy?
Yeah, Andy.
Okay.
Snakebite Andy.
Okay.
I just remember that from the novel, so I don't know if they actually said it in the movie, but yeah, it's Andy.
There's a poster there for Joe Collins.
Uh-huh.
You notice that?
I noticed Joe Collins, but what significance does that have?
That's Dandelo's name.
Oh, shit. Really?
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, it wasn't on the marquee. It's a poster off to the side.
Yeah. It was like the we're showing this or coming soon poster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good one. And that one slipped by me.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's a really good one. Dick obviously says cause a wheel. That's probably
that's the one that I was gonna try and remember and forgot.
Yeah, that's a big one. Baseball boy's jersey number is 19.
Of course.
Yeah, that one fit really well. The doctor's office is basically an exact copy of Ullman's office from the Shining movie, the original.
Where Jack has his interview to get the job.
Yeah, which is one of the most bizarre scenes. When I watched that in theaters for the 4K remaster, I'm just like, what the fuck kind of scene is this? Like, it's great, but like to think about it objectively, for one, this day and age, you don't get scenes that are that long.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost a rule you can't have scenes that are long, like
Mhm.
that long, especially. But then it's just like they're just laying this history out for him. Where it's like,
Yeah.
hey, this dude murdered his family, and like, there's all kinds.
He's like, okay.
It's just like the most like bizarre scene. But yeah, so that was I noticed that right away. That was just like, oh yeah, this is fucking that's the office from The Shining, that was a cool one in terms of the Easter eggs.
Josh just picked up and says he's leaving.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Indeed. See you, Josh. Hope you hear the rest of the episode after you've seen the film. Going up next, the first person that dies with the whole cat in the retirement home is in room 217.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I noticed that. That was a good one. Aber's House, 1980, the year The Shining came out. You just mentioned that one.
Mhm.
This is actually an interesting one, and actually a really significant one in a lot of ways. Danny Lloyd, the actor who played Danny in The Shining, has a cameo in the baseball field. He's in the bleachers.
No shit.
Yeah, so the reason that this is so fucking significant, he has never acted again after The Shining.
Damn.
He's a civilian. He's like a professor in Colorado teaching something. Like he's never.
Why Colorado? I mean, for God's sakes, pick another state, dude.
So just for me, when I heard, because I missed it, I don't like. I would know what he looked like anyway. I think
Yeah.
maybe I've seen a picture of him one time, not enough to stick in my head. So I certainly want to go back and see that scene again.
Is he in non-speaking roles? Are you one of the guys that talks about the baseball boy?
I think the guy that's talking about the baseball boy, it's the one he's talking to, perhaps.
Oh,
I think I'll have to hear it again, but yeah, no, I just found it was like that's like hugely significant because this dude has not done other. He didn't continue on into acting, so that's kind of cool to have him come back. Two bits of dialogue, I guess, that jumped out at me. False face. Good callback to The Shining that is used in The Shining.
Oh, okay.
And didn't get in the Kubrick film, so I found that significant in terms of like, oh, cool. As a reader, I appreciate that. No, false face, like I think Danny yells that at Jack at one point, right?
Oh,
In
maybe.
The Shining, I believe it is because I believe he's like trying to like lure him out in a friendly way or something. And false face. I remember false face. That was like it was just something about it that just like jogged my distant memory.
Yeah.
And also take your medicine.
Worthless pup.
That almost went off over like just like water off
Mhm.
the back duck's back because like honestly until that I don't even know that I ever realized that was not in the movie. I don't know that. I mean it isn't.
It's not in the movie.
It's not in
the
The
original
Shining.
Shining.
He never says that.
Huh.
And it's like one of those things like Mandela effect. I think I've just inserted that because it's such a great line in the book. I think I've just have it in my memory that Jack Nicholson performed that line, but he
Damn.
never did. So like I completely missed it at first, but then like midway through the movie, I'm like, wait a minute. He never that was never said. Or not midway through the movie, but after it had happened, I was just like, dude, wait a minute. That was actually significant. I thought it was like retroactively realized like, oh shit, that was huge because that wasn't in the Kubrick movie. And then let's see. There's a couple of recreations. We'll get into some of them as we get into the larger conversation. The ending is a huge tribute to the book. Rose the Hat and Dan recreate the stair scene with Wendy and Jack.
Yep.
And Dan is limping pretty much exactly like his dad at the end.
Mhm.
But yeah, so that's kind of the Easter eggs that I have. I don't know if there's others, but those are the ones that jumped out to me. I mean, there's others that we even saw in the trailer. I feel like they did some very Kubrickian filmmaking things, like Steadicam shots. There was framing that was very Kubrick-like and stuff.
Well, I mean, they did the in the film they did the Danny going down the hallway on his trike with the camera behind a steady shot.
Yeah.
They also did the elevator with the blood.
Yeah, which actually that's just taken straight from The Shining. They didn't redo that. But even like Rose the Hat when she's walking in the grocery store, the way that one shot is framed when it's behind her going down the aisle, like that is just if you just grained that up and said like Kubrick shot this, I wouldn't doubt it. Like it looks like something he would have shot.
Yeah.
So Mike Flanagan did a great job to kind of I don't know, tribute Kubrick in a number of ways. So into my questions. So first of all, number one, overall thoughts on Dr. Sleep.
I loved it. I mean, I came out really excited about it, really pumped about it. It fulfilled all of my needs for Dr. Sleep. I think that the tying together, I mean, obviously we're going to talk about the ending here now.
Yeah. And anyone in the chat, you can speak up too, answer these
Yeah.
questions as well if you want.
the big thing for me was the tying together the endings, having the Overlook get destroyed.
Yeah.
Abra survives. Danny goes, which is different from Doctor Sleep, the novel, but having him go the way he went kind of seems like it redeemed the Torrance family, and I think that's kind of like what Cy King was talking about.
Yeah.
Is that it really brings the Shining movie back towards the novel.
Yeah.
Quite a bit.
Because Flanagan basically allowed the ending of this to be the ending of the Shining book.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's the thing to me is I was just like, my jaw was almost on the ground as that last bit played out, because I'm like, dude, I'm fucking seeing the end of the Shining right now. Like the end of the Shining book, I'm seeing this on screen.
And that's what I was alluding to earlier, is that I really don't think that they're ever going to have justification to remake the Shining now. I think Flanagan's done enough here with Dr. Sleep that we're never going to see it now. These two films exist, and that's going to be it. I mean, maybe we'll get like the Flanagan prequel. I mean, the
Halloran.
Dick Halloran prequel with Mike Flanagan, but aside from like a drastic decision by Warner Brothers 10 years from now, 20 years from now, to be like, hey, you know what? We're going to remake The Shining. I just don't see it. I don't see it happening after this film.
Yeah.
Ewan McGregor was fantastic, by the way.
Yeah.
And I loved Rose the Hat.
Yeah.
The actress who played Rose the Hat is exactly how I pictured Rose the Hat to be. Just fucking insane.
And she did a killer performance too.
Yeah.
Like, I saw someone on Twitter, and I can't remember who. I don't know if it was even on my personal one or on the Dark Tower one, but they basically said that Rebecca Ferguson basically put herself into the same realm as Kathy Bates with this performance in terms of like iconic, great, well executed King villains. And I was just like,
for sure,
I was like, holy shit! Like, but then I started thinking about, I'm like, I honestly think I might agree, man. She was fucking incredible.
Yeah.
So my overall thoughts, I loved it. In terms of question one, I enjoyed it a lot. I didn't feel that it was overdone because my concern a little bit going in was like they were just going to overdo The Shining too much. And I feel like I even said that in the episode that I brought up my complaints, though, going into it. I did bring up that I trusted Mike enough that I didn't think that it was going to happen. And I thought that it was going to be very unshining in a lot of ways. And a lot of it was just marketing people that were just like, we got to make sure everyone knows this is Shining, and they were just overdoing it. And I think that I was proved right. I don't think Mike at all went overboard with the Shining stuff. I felt it fit perfectly with what we saw. Great performances all around. And as one that hasn't read Dr. Sleep since 2013 when it came out, I would say that, I was just like, I thought it was incredibly well done. So that's my overall thoughts. In the chat here, Mark says, just goes to show you can make changes and still have the soul of the book. Cough, Dark Tower, cough. And I think that's the ultimate thing that we have to get to is like it isn't just about fidelity to the source material in terms of line by line. You got to get it all right, but it's a matter of like at the soul of the book is that portrayed in the movie. And I think like that's the thing like that Marvel has done so well. Like like nothing almost. You're not going to pick up a comic book and read anything that matches what the MCU's done. Age of Ultron, completely different storyline. Infinity War, completely different storyline. Ragnarok, completely different. Like they're just these things don't get done the same way. Civil War, like all these things are different. But at the root of it all, though, Tony Stark, you're going to recognize on the page if you've watched the MCU.
Yep.
If you go start reading comic books, you're going to recognize Steve Rogers. You're going to recognize Thor. You're going to recognize because they got the heart of those characters so right. And I feel like that's what I've been basically preaching on here since 2017 with the Dark Tower. For me, it's more about fidelity to like the core characters. And for me, I would say, they didn't do Roland the same as they did the books, but I felt that was a choice they made. For him having the horn, it kind of went into my whole theory, the ending, and like the reason that I thought that he was different than, and maybe and like Forsaken the Tower didn't bother me because this is a broken Roland that has more of his soul as this cycle restarts. So as shit goes down, like he just has less fucks to give type thing. Okay. Next up, number 2, what are your feelings about Kubrick's film coming into this? Like, I guess kind of a way to parse, like, in that we talked a tiny bit about this earlier when it comes to the King Kubrick rivalry almost. Like, what was your thought process? Because I don't even know if I've brought my up a little bit. I don't know if I've ever asked you on the show before. Where does Kubrick's film rank for you? Did you see it before you read the book? And how do you parse them? Like, how do you look at the overall thing? Are you a fence sitter like me? Do you sit on King's side, Kubrick's side?
I've always had The Shining as one of, if not the greatest horror films of all time.
Yeah.
In my mind. With an asterisk next to it. And that asterisk is, it could have been better.
Yeah.
That's always been my thought process ever since I read The Shining.
Yeah.
Which is one of the earlier books that you put me onto, is that, dude, if you liked Salem's Lot and you really like this Dark Tower series, you got to check out The Shining. I know we had watched The Shining before I read it.
Okay.
And you're like, the book is very different.
Yeah.
He's like, so you're like, read it, let me know what you think. And so when I say that I have an asterisk next to The Shining, Stanley Kubrick's Shining, that says it could be better, King nailed it on the head earlier today in the episode, where he talks about the ending and the redemption of Jack Torrance.
Yeah.
The heart of the story is that, and we've talked about this before. I'm pretty sure that we've talked about this before because I am a father myself.
Yeah.
And that pulling yourself back from the brink to protect your child,
yeah,
it resonates really strongly with me.
Yeah.
So going into the film, especially Dr. Sleep, The Shining holds a special place in my heart as being one of the greatest horror films of all time because Kubrick made a masterful film.
Yeah.
There's no denying that.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
But I believe it could have been better.
Yeah. Okay, so you're kind of fence sitter. You see both sides of the argument.
Same exact as you.
Okay.
Is that I do see Kubrick's film as one of the greatest horror films. But I also do see King's point.
Yeah.
The thing that was missing.
I guess look at it that way. What about King's book? Like, if you look at Kubrick's movies is one of the greatest of all time. Where does King's book rank? Like,
it's up there.
Like,
I mean,
dude,
it's up there.
I'd honestly say, in a lot of ways, nothing comes to my mind. I don't know that any book of King's has scared me more than The Shining.
It scared the hell out of me.
In the moments that, like, it got really, like, the hedge animals, like, dude, that fucking gets me every time. Like, just fucking, like, goosebumps and fucking cold chill down my whole fucking body. Like, it's just terrifying. And like dude, there was one point that I posted on social media on my Facebook, my personal one, where I basically typed out the room 237 or 217 scene, because in the book it's so much different. I mean, you know, you see it all. Like, Danny, you're basically with Danny as he's basically, remember, as Halloran said, just close your eyes, it'll go away. You know, and he closes his eyes as fucking Miss Maisie or whatever her name. I'm blanking on her name now. Massey, yeah. As she's coming towards him, you know, and then just the way that King writes it, like, I'm getting chills just thinking about it. It's fucking terrifying, and it's way scarier. I mean, it'd probably be hard to portray on film, you know, strangling a child, but it's like, God, the way that it's done is like fucking rudimentary, like horror. And like, I just don't know. Like, King's written some other stuff that's fucking terrifying for sure, but for me personally, I think some of the scares in The Shining are some of the worst that he's done for me. And me, I have no heart or soul when it comes to horror. Like,
that's true.
Like, I was telling, I was with Hayden last night. We went and saw The Irishman, and afterwards we were talking about horror a little bit. And actually, from the Mike Flanagan interview, I'll give him credit. I stole it from him because he talked about how horror movies don't really scare him. And he's like, it's kind of like at the end of The Matrix when Neo starts to see the code. He's like, that's the way I am with horror movies. And I started to realize, I'm like, dude, I'm the same fucking way. That's why horror movies don't scare me, because I'm reading the code. I'm like, I know what's coming. I know what, you know, whatever. And for me, it's more of like bravo, you know, put up a little sign.
Good scare.
Yeah,
good scare,
put up a sign that's like 9.7, you know, like, just like, oh, good gore, you know, like, that's me. Like, I look at it more like, but the books, you know, there's some things that King does that get me in the books. And I think The Shining might have the crown for me right now. But you mentioned it has some over.
Oh, it gets me. There's scenes in it where I'm just like, this is the stuff of nightmares right here.
Yeah.
You know, like just one off the top of my head, because Me and My Creatures is the kid at the canal.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The Cochran kid. Like that's dude. Every time I read that, I'm fucking terrified. Every time. So, yeah. In the chat, I gotta clarify this. The Mission Kin says even the wasp nest was terrifying. Wasp nest.
Yeah, when Jack has to go out. What is? I'm trying to remember the details of it.
It's been so long
he
since
has
I've
to-
read The Shining.
Because I'm trying to remember, doesn't he have flashbacks of his parents and his dad beating his mom, and like, because he taught him about smoking out the hornet's nest to kill them all. And then he, like, after he has done it, like, he's like a handyman, right? And he has to kill this wasp nest, and he does it, and I think he gives a piece of it to Danny, and then it, like, it's a piece, like, maybe it's the whole nest even, but they're all dead, you know. This is like,
Yeah.
and then, like, but like days later, but then wasps come out and attack Danny, if I recall correctly.
Oh shit, yeah.
And like, you know,
Oh yeah,
and,
okay.
and Wendy's all pissed that he gave it to the kid, and he's just like, dude, they're fucking dead. Like, I smoked the damn thing out. They're like, there was dead fucking wasps all over the damn ground. Like, they're, you know, so yeah, just definitely. There's a lot, but so now the second part of the question, I guess I have a different question, but did your feelings change toward The Shining, Kubrick's Shining, after seeing this? Did this do anything for you in terms of, like, you know, I covered the King article earlier.
I think it kind of removes the asterisk a little bit. Is that okay? Good. I have a satisfactory ending now to the story. I'm going to watch The Shining, and then I can turn around and I can watch Dr. Sleep, and I can get the ending that I was talking about. That it could have been better.
Yeah.
Especially having Ewan McGregor play Danny. I mean,
Yeah.
like, come on, dude. I fucking love Ewan McGregor.
Yeah. Hello there.
Hello there.
I will say the only thing that for me as a fan of the books that still strikes me as like I still want to see it is like the hedge animals is a big one, but then just the overall disposition of Jack, you know. Did you watch the honest trailers for The Shining? It just came out a couple weeks ago, and it's all like, you know, watches a father that seems like he already hates his family at the start of the movie.
Yeah.
And it's like, and it's true though. Like,
there's this shot of him holding Danny on his lap, and he's just like, "Are you loving your son, or are you about to snap his neck?"
Yeah,
Like-
yeah. So that makes me laugh because at the beginning, I mean, just he's Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, through and
So
through.
it's like, but I was just wondering if it changed anything, because for me, I haven't watched The Shining since watching Dr. Sleep, but I do feel like in some way this movie will change The Shining for me in a fundamental way, the way I view the movie, and I think positive for sure. But I do feel that, like, now, next time I go watch The Shining, which I'm fresh off a rewatch, so I don't know that I'm gonna do it anytime soon. I just feel like there's gonna be a different view of a lot of things, and I'm intrigued to see what that'll be. But I think that this did nothing but positive for it. You know, like some cases, horror, if you get a sequel, like, it does nothing but takes away from the original.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's kind of cool to see this is kind of the reverse. So your thoughts on Dr. Sleep, book versus film? I mean, and this really comes down to then the ending, because that's the main differences, right? And that's the really big difference. Is
There's some other fundamental differences. I mean, the True Knot's not sick in the film, which I mentioned to you after.
weren't they running out of steam though?
They were running out of steam, just like in the film. They were down to a couple canisters.
That's why
she was hiding it. But the big thing,
the way I was interpreting the film is they weren't necessarily sick, but that it was that they were basically
they were starving.
malnourished.
They were
Yeah.
starving to death.
That's why I interpreted the movie. So I don't know about this, because like the sickness, we see like the grandpa, whatever, die. But I almost just interpreted that as like steam will keep them kind of young, but since they're all kind of malnourished, like age is catching up to him type thing. But so
That's
you interpreted more of an illness then.
No, it was that way in the book.
Oh,
In the book,
okay.
in the book, they were sick.
Oh, okay.
I was saying fundamental differences between the books. And the film.
I thought you meant they were sick in the movie. I'm like, I didn't, and they
No.
weren't in the book.
They were.
Well, you said
yeah.
I reversed it in my head.
Yeah, they were sick in the book because they got the measles, and it's one of my
That's right.
one of my more favorite scenes in the book is the doc for them comes to Crow Daddy and throws the hat and is like, yeah, and I remember the guy's voice that
I think it's Will Patton, isn't
Will
it?
Patton.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got the measles, and it's just like, she's like, the measles. What the fuck are we getting the measles for? Like, we're fucking like century-long living beings, and we're getting the fucking children's disease. Like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's kind of like karmic justice, which is really funny how the two things changed the ending. I think that Dr. Sleep novel's ending was perfect to give closure to Danny for his dad's sacrifice,
Yeah.
whereas the movie gave perfect closure for the Torrance family for Jack's insanity,
Yeah.
which was the structural difference between the novels and the movies. So for me, the big difference there, obviously Abra's family comes out intact, which seemed a little, oh, Dany survives, Abra survives, her mom and dad survive. The only one that really the doctor survives, the best friend survives. The only one that really goes is her Conchetta, her grandma, in the book. And she dies from cancer, not from, getting murdered. It's like, wait, so we got this, and I think this is what Mark was alluding to earlier in his statement, is it's just like, we got this huge, super, funded organization that can move drugs across the United States and not be able to be noticed that they're killing children, but they're not able to handle 6 untrained adults and a kid. Like, okay, where's the threat? Kind of thing. In the movie, I felt the threat was a little bit more real.
Yeah.
The shootout really, really hit me hard.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck, what's his name? The buddy, the one that gets Danny the job and takes him to AA.
Yeah.
In the movie.
I don't remember off the top of my head.
I want to say Benny, but that's not right.
Yeah, I don't recall.
But him killing himself was such a fucking shock in the movie.
Yeah.
And I got a feeling now, listening to more about Mike and finding out more about him, how big of a King fan he is, he had to have done that intentionally. And then Abra's dad gets killed.
Yeah.
Like, that's just so fucking brutal.
And that stuff that I couldn't remember if that had happened in the book, because again, I'm so far removed from a reread that I don't know. I've never reread it.
Yeah.
So, but go on.
Yeah, you said that you haven't read it since 2013. Mark asked in the chat, they got infected from Abra's grandma, measles? No. They got measles from the baseball boy, which was years before they even found out about Abra. So Abra has 3 major events in her life involving The Shining.
Billy.
Not Benny, Billy.
Yeah.
Billy killing himself in the campground shootout in the movie caught me so off guard.
Yeah.
Which was brilliantly done.
Yeah.
Abra's first, when she was little, she's a couple months old, is 9/11, which was so fucking traumatic to have that happen. The second one is when she's only 3 or 4, the baseball boy gets killed. And she wakes up screaming, the baseball boy, they're hurting the baseball boy, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Then when she's a teenager, almost a decade later, she sees the lost kid flyer.
Yeah.
So measles, for an unvaccinated human, will kill you in months, maybe a year. Like, it's a pretty serious disease. But the True Knot took years to get infected and start having it affect them.
Yeah.
So Rose gets the idea in the novel that Abra's so powerful that she's going to cure them of the measles if they drain her.
Yeah.
So that's where Conchetta, Abra's grandma, comes in. She releases her sickness on them, her cancer, because Danny absorbs that, and that's why he looks like shit driving from Maine, Colorado.
Yeah.
He looks like he's dying because literally he's holding a dying person's infected, cancerous, riddled essence inside of him. And that's what he releases on the True Knot. And then he's better, and he's fine. So you think Danny's going to die, and then he doesn't. But no, the measles come from the baseball boy.
Mark mentions they dropped the "we're actually related" angle. I don't recall that at all.
You don't?
No, I have no recollection of that in any way.
Jack is Abra's mother's father.
Okay.
So Abra's mother, she literally, he's Uncle Jack. I mean, Uncle Danny. Uncle Danny.
Yeah.
Jack has an affair before they leave New Hampshire with Abra's partying mother.
I'm with you, Mark. I think it's better to not have that personally. Because dude, apparently I completely
you didn't have the mom in the movie.
Apparently
the mom left.
Apparently I completely dropped that out of my memory.
I always forget about it in my reread because how it goes down in the novel, you have exactly how you have it in the movie. Abra contacts Danny and starts talking to them about how the True Knot found her, and they're targeting her and they're looking for her. the entire time, Abra's mom is down in Boston. Remember, Abra lives in Maine. Maine? No, New Hampshire. It's one of the few that doesn't take place in Maine.
Yeah.
In New Hampshire, when Abra's mom is down in Boston with Conchetta, Abra's Momo, her grandma, she fell and broke her leg, hip, something. And it's coming to the point where she has to understand, I need a caregiver. Also, that's when they find the cancer. So she's down in Boston taking care of her mother, her grandmother. It's Abra's great-grandmother. I forgot that. So she's not there for like all of it. And then Abra gets kidnapped. And while she's being brought back by Billy, because Billy gets kidnapped at the same time by the Crow, they go to get Abra's mom. And Abra's mom is like, I'm going to fucking kill you, like talking to Danny. And then like after they talk and after they settle down, that's where they kind of look at each other and go, fuck, we kind of look a lot alike. And that's where Danny kind of figures it out.
Yeah, I'm probably glad that's not in there personally. But,
Yeah.
I don't really need to answer this question because I don't remember the book enough to really give. I mean, I remember the big element of the difference, the ending, and the ending I didn't even have that clear in my mind.
I had to remind you after the movie
because there's just like it is somewhat unremarkable. Whereas like I feel like the ending here in the film is way better. So I feel like that's definitely an improvement in my opinion. Film over book. Next up, what do you think of casting? And you already mentioned you liked Rose and Ewan. Yeah, for me, dude, Jacob Tremblay, I did not fucking remember that he was casting this. He was the baseball boy. He's like a pretty big actor for like probably one of the biggest child stars right now. He was in Room and he was just in Good Boys, which was hilarious, by the way.
Oh, was it?
But suddenly he's on. I'm like, that's Jacob Tremblay? Nah, there's no way. I would have heard about that. And then like the more I'm like, that is him. Like,
yeah.
And then I'm like, then vaguely in the back of my head, I'm like, I actually think I do remember hearing that he was going to be in this. That was cool because he's a really good actor. The kid that played Abra was fantastic.
She was great.
I feel like she did a really, really good job.
I thought her dad kind of stole the show in the scenes that he was in.
Oh, really?
Every scene that he was in, he kind of stole it for me. Like the kitchen scene with the spoons, and then like your Uncle Dan, like all pissed off, exactly like a father should. And then like after getting everything slammed into his brain by Abra, the shaking, pouring the drink and everything like that. I thought he was great. I thought he was fantastic. I thought he was,
and then he's dead.
I thought he was one of the unsung heroes of the film because everyone's gonna rant and rave about the same.
Yeah,
Rose was really good. Ewan was really good. Abra was. I'm not taking anything away from them, but I always like looking at those smaller characters.
Rose and Abra, I didn't expect. I mean, I just thought it'd be Ewan like really carrying the movie in a lot of ways. But I'd have to say, like, I'm gonna give Rebecca Ferguson as Rose the MVP of the whole movie.
Yeah.
I really think that she fucking killed it. I mean, I don't know what I expected, but I mean, the trailers didn't give us much on her. I mean, just a few shots, but like, holy shit, she was a great fucking villain. And just overall. And then like Abra is probably number 2 for me MVP wise.
Yeah.
But then like when you get into it deeper, like the guy playing Billy was great. The guy playing Halloran was awesome.
Yeah. We talked about this when we came out of the theater. The chick that they got to play Danny's mom.
Oh yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah,
dude.
the one to play. And I guess that comes into like that should almost be a 2B. Or a 5. This is question 5. 5B is the recasting of the 3
and Halloran.
Oh, and 4 if you count him, because Danny, you don't see a lot of him, but you do have a kid Danny that's filling the role that was played before.
I'm not gonna do anything with the kid. I mean, the kid was in such a little bit. The mom, the dad, Jack and what was his mom's name?
Wendy.
Jack,
light of my life.
Give me the bat.
Give me that.
Wendy,
give me that, Marge. Give me that.
Give me that. Give me the bat. We always end up with The Simpsons when we talk about The Shining.
Dude, how could you not? It's so fucking
shitting.
Good, dude.
Don't you mean the shitting?
So good. Sorry, what were you saying?
But I think all 3 of them, Dick, Wendy, and Jack, I think all three of them were great. Honestly, at the bar,
So none of them bothered you then?
no, none of them really.
Like in terms of just like you, like me. I mean, I've more of my life I've known Kubrick's The Shining than not. Right? Like maybe 5 or 6 years of my life I didn't know it, and then I have. So it's like a majority of my life, like those things are in my head. Like I know, like if I see Dick Halloran in another movie, that's gonna be, oh shit, look, that's Dick Halloran. And Jack Nicholson, like, so there was. It's just it's tough, not because even an actor doing a good job might have a hard time in a role like that because you're putting yourself on such a pedestal. So I was wondering if that bothered you.
I think that the Jack bar scene was just enough.
Yeah. So that
I felt that if we had nothing with Jack, that if that had been Lloyd instead, that would have severely knocked the movie down for me.
Yeah.
To never have that closure with the dad, to never have that confrontation or anything with him.
But then it wasn't really there though. That's what's cool is that like because it isn't like in a lot of ways Jack. But it's funny because that's actually my next question is because the scene in the clip Flanagan talked about. There's one scene that sold King on it, and would your guess have been that scene?
I think it's the boiler room.
Okay, no, it's the Torrance.
Oh, it's
Jack Torrance.
It's
scene.
the Jack Torrance scene.
Yeah, that's the scene that he gave him to be like.
Oh, he actually said which one it was?
Yeah, there was something else I saw that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because that was my next question, just to see if you'd guess. Because like the boiler scene is pretty good too, but no, yeah, that scene with Jack is kind of the
linchpin.
big one.
It's the linchpin that drives the whole bringing together Kubrick's and that as well as the boiler room is obviously the result of what happens there and everything.
And what I loved about it is how much of a good Kubrick reference it was. Couple things. Obviously, it's the same bar, same room. It's using the same music.
Yeah. Same outfit too. Like he was dressed up like Lloyd.
Yeah. It's a Jack Daniels bottle, just like it was in The Shining. I mean, they're just on point with that kind of stuff. But when you're watching that scene, what scenes from The Shining came to mind?
Jack taking his first drink.
Okay. Anything else? There's one other scene that's huge, but I think it's like one of those ones that's just different enough that like it doesn't connect in some people's minds. When Jack is in that fucking bright red bathroom with Grady, and he's telling him like, you're Grady, like I've seen your picture, you murdered your daughters, and no, you have me mistaken for someone else, because he's not Grady anymore, right? And that's exactly what happens with Jack. Like it's I mean, I'm getting chills thinking about that because again, it's like cool, yeah, you're looking at your dad, but at the same time, like the same way your dad couldn't, like he was talking to a specter that looked like Grady but wasn't, in the same way you're looking at a specter that's looks like your dad but isn't. But it gave him that emotional closure. But it gave me chills because like once I realized that, I was like, holy shit, dude, he's also referencing like that bathroom scene. Because remember, Jack just has like that glare in it, and he's just like, no, you're him. You're him. Like, and he's just like, you're mistaken. And I think he says like 4 times, like, you're mistaken, sir. You're mistaking me for someone else. Like, so I really loved that a lot. Now, I'm not necessarily, so Mike Flanagan uses that gentleman that played Jack Torrance. He's used him in a lot of his movies. Does he familiar to you at all? You know him.
I do.
But it's one of those ones that you may not realize you know him. Because I looked him up just to see, like, because they're like, oh, it's this actor, and, like, he works with Flanagan a lot. But I'm like, I don't know. But I clicked on it. Dude, that is fucking Elliot from E.T.
No shit.
That is the main kid from E.T. as an adult.
Holy shit, really?
Yeah. Dude, blew my fucking mind. Yeah, that is Elliot from Extraterrestrial.
All right.
So, which is kind of cool. It's like watching Pacific and realizing the kid from Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Kind of cool. So yeah, that was casting across the board is great. Michigan had
to take off.
Yeah, and then Mark says acting's on point all the way. Rose the Hat stole it from me though.
She was so good.
Yeah, she was really good, and I think agreed just across the board. The casting was incredible. And yeah, the dad. Yeah, I see what you're saying for sure in terms of like
he wasn't in it a lot, but when he was in it, it just seemed like he just was like I don't know about you, but that scene where he's pouring the drink, dude, that got me because like imagine having that shit slammed into your head.
Yeah.
That your daughter, not only that your daughter witnessed that, but like the actual fucking trauma of seeing a kid get murdered.
So how about that scene, by the way?
I know you text me about that.
Yeah, so because I was listening to that,
You want to
so
preface
I was
that?
listening. I mean, listen to that podcast that I'm gonna connect into the show notes, because he talks about basically that he basically was given the opportunity to edit a week or two maybe tops before the movie was going to come out.
Shit.
And basically he was being super, because you heard from the clip that we did play that the guy hadn't even seen trailers, so he's being careful about it. But he's like, there was one scene that was like really upsetting. He's like, it was upsetting to film, it was upsetting to see, and he's like, and I feel like even that in retrospect that we had gone too far in it. And he's like, so basically very shortly before the movie came out, I was on another movie or on something else up in Vancouver, up in the, I think it was maybe House Hill or Haunted Hill House, whatever the hell his show's called. He may have been up there working on the next season of that. And they basically brought up like the footage for him to edit, and basically from what I understand, he drew it back a little bit more to what we saw. And so it just made me question, like, for everyone, like, because, like, again, me, I have no soul. Like, I'm just like, yeah, this is like, I can see how some might find this upsetting, but at the same time, to me, I'm just like, it's a horror movie, So do you find that scene? Because I had to text you.
Oh, it's so highly disturbing,
and that gives like maybe some insight into like just how much I see the Matrix,
how desensitized you are.
Yeah, because like I saw, like when I was hearing this, I text you, and I'm just like. I'm like, dude, so I'm listening to Henry Flanagan, and he's saying, so there's one scene that's like super like disturbing, and like we went with Hayden, and he was quite put off by the degloving scene. So like that was somewhat in my head, but I'm like, is it the gore? And so I asked you, and you're like, no, the baseball boy. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Like, I'm just like
that's the I cannot think of another movie that has ever shown not the death of a child. We've seen that. It's happened.
Torture.
It's the torture of it. I mean, come on, dude. I've seen Schindler's List. Yeah. Like, I recently rewatched Schindler's List, and I got choked up just like I always do when I see that little girl wearing the red coat and everything like that going onto the fire. Or walking through the ghetto when they're doing the liquidation, and just like, fuck, this is just so god-awful.
Yeah.
But you don't see anything that happens to those kids.
Yeah.
You don't see a scene.
Hell, even Ewan McGregor in episode 3. You see like the kids right before a massacre, and then you see Ewan and Yoda finding the bodies of the kids afterwards.
You don't see it
you're not
happen.
You're not seeing Anakin chop the kids up.
And even like the hologram that they pull up, just to further along your point and my point, when the hologram pulls up, there is one younger Jedi that comes at him. He grabs her by the throat while fending off another guy.
Yeah.
He doesn't actually dispose of her, even in the fucking hologram that's like tiny in the bottom left-hand corner.
Yeah.
So this has got to be one of, if not the most graphic, violent things done to a child on screen. Like, the fact that you just were like, oh yeah, is like, just shows how completely desensitized to the horror genre you are.
Yeah, I mean, because again, like I just look at it differently. Like, call it, like, taking Mike's phrase, seeing the Matrix, or just calling it, like, I just view it more clinically and less emotionally. So for me, it's just like, oh, this is like, even in that scene, I remember thinking like, oh, like the way they're editing this, they're not really showing as much as it's like the Scarface scene with the chainsaw, right? Like when after they did the first,
seeing his reaction,
after they had the first number of screens of that, they interviewed people, and they basically said like, we're gonna, or no, it was the rating board, and they were like, this is gonna be NC-17. They're like, what? Like, oh, that chainsaw scene's just too much. You're watching them chop this guy up in pieces with the chainsaw, and they're like, you never see a chainsaw touch flesh in the scene, just like in Hitchcock. In Psycho, you never see a knife touch or penetrate anything. Like, it's all illusion.
Implied.
And it's all but it does it, if it does it so well, suddenly in people's minds in Scarface they think they saw a dude get his arm chopped off, but all you really see is reaction shots. And like, I feel like this did so like for me, I'm like analyzing that, where I'm just like, okay, yeah, you fully understand what they're doing to this kid, but you're not actually like seeing, like, so again, I'm
the
very
blade entering his flesh.
Yeah,
right.
so I'm like more clinical about it that way. And then, like, I do actually remember after we had text, I remember thinking to myself, like, I actually do remember thinking, wow, they're letting this go on longer than I would anticipate. I thought it would have cut away, and they just kept it going. I'm like, oh, okay. But like for me, it's
and that's
different.
the toned down version.
Yeah, I can only imagine what and he didn't give a lot of indication, but I feel like it was maybe seconds difference, because it is one of those things. If you just draw it back a tiny bit, it changes everything.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's that is quite the scene there.
Tad doesn't emotionally act when children are tortured. I mean, just like hashtag Tad is terrible.
Not
like,
movies, man. I mean, for me, half the time I'm just like, I want to see more kids. Like in zombie movies, it pisses me off that you never see kids, except for like the original Dawn of the Dead. Where do you see kids in zombies? Like it's like Grand Theft Auto. You play one of the Grand Theft Auto games. Just a world where there's no children. Like it's just nothing but adults.
Because you don't want to give the character an opportunity to murder a child.
But it's just one of those funny little things. But it's the same with zombies. Like, oh, so this whole population, like children make up like 30-something% of the fucking population, generally speaking. But there's never zombie children.
Have I ever told you my theory
on
that?
There is the one in Dawn of the Dead. That's one of the few ones where it's like Romero is like, okay, here I'm gonna fucking show you kids. Like, but in general, everywhere else is like, I don't even know if Walking Dead. I don't know what they ever did, but like,
they show children.
Okay.
They show children
because it's just one of those things that I'm just like, because to me, I see it as like, again, because I almost look at it more from the filmmaker's perspective. I look at it as a tool. Because people are like, you can't kill kids, you can't kill animals. Me, I'm just like, so what you need to do is find the best way to kill a kid or kill an animal, because it's going to fucking upset people. The same way Hitchcock upset the fuck out of people in Psycho,
just the way,
because they had never seen anything like that before.
Just the way The Exorcist upset people.
Yeah, The Exorcist.
Yes.
Like, but now, fast forward 30, 40 years, suddenly those things aren't as influential. Like, people are just like, oh, cool, he chopped up 75 people, but he killed a fucking dog. I can't believe that,
That monster.
And it's like, but you just said he killed 75 people. Like,
are we forgetting that fact?
So for me, I'm always in the realm of like, God, I'd love to like see like more people get like, kill pets or kill kids, because like it's going to elicit that reaction that that you want to get as a filmmaker, right? It's the same as like a horror haunted house, right? If you go to a haunted house, like their whole thing is to scare you. They may just stick to like jump scares because they're cheap like that, but like, it's what they do.
I mean, you haven't been to a haunted house recently. You can sign waivers now and have them grab you and stuff.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I did that with my wife even a few years ago, where we signed the waivers and we did the whole VIP thing. And I remember one time we came around a corner. My wife's definitely afraid of clowns. You know this.
Yeah.
The audience probably has got this for the fact that she will not watch it.
Yeah, I think we talked about how I paid her to watch the trailer for it.
Yeah, you paid her $20 to watch the original It trailer. Yeah, we did talk about that. We walked around this corner, and it's the black light with all the fluorescent paints, and everyone's in clown masks that obviously pop. They started to come towards us down this hall, and I went, you don't want me, you want her. And they went, and there's these big exaggerated clown nods. They slid to the right. I went down the left side and left my wife for the clowns. She still is pissed about that.
Hashtag Peter is terrible.
I know, right? I just totally left her. And we had signed the waiver, so these clowns were like, okay, let's take her. And they would actually like drag you to places to scare you.
Yeah.
Like there was like these like, in the waiting line, if you signed like the extreme waiver, because there's 3 levels. Don't touch me. You can grab me, but don't take me anywhere. And then there was a do whatever the fuck you want one. This guy came out after a chick signed it. Apparently it was like one of the things that they did, that if it was a slow night, we went on like a Wednesday night. This dude came out dressed like a vampire, picked this chick up, like slammed her down on a table, had her by like the throat, and was like, I'm going to bite you and suck your blood. And it's just like, holy fuck. Like, this has changed from when I was a kid. It's awesome.
Yeah. Okay, so next up, how do you view Mike now that you have seen this along with Gerald's game?
Give me more Mike making Stephen King.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all I'm going to say. There is nothing else that needs to be said. Give me more.
Okay. I agree, but I'm going to go one further. I think he's better than Frank Darabont. Okay, because here, let me clarify. I'm not saying that Gerald's Game or Dr. Sleep is better than Shawshank, but if in terms of difficulty level, Frank had it a little bit easier doing at least Green Mile and Shawshank. I will give him credit for the difficulty of doing what he did with The Mist, but Mike has taken on 2 of the hardest fucking things in King's pantheon
Yes,
Like
there's
he
no way
Gerald-
you
Ger-
can make a 2-hour movie
Gerald's
about a
game
woman
is
tied to a bed.
Yeah, it's unfilmable, right? It's everyone's always said it's unfilmable. And then you're gonna have him step into a role where he's gonna have to make a sequel or make an adaptation of the sequel to The Shining, which means that he's going to have to make a cinematic film that is going to exist in the same world as one of the greatest horror movies of all time, and somehow balance what King did and what Kubrick did. Like, how in like
Well,
I can't envy him like that. Those are two of the shittiest situations to be in. Whereas like Frank, it's like, okay, cool, you took like a decent short and made one of the greatest films of all time, if not the greatest film of all time. But like, there's got to be some level of difficulty that if that's taken into account, I think Mike might have edged Frank. And I'm not trying to be. I wanted to see it one more time to make sure that like I'm not overreacting to a first viewing. But like, I had some feelings of like this may not go well. Like I trust Mike
from the ad campaign,
but
mainly.
not even that. Just in general, just I had a pit in my stomach where I'm just like, I don't know if this is going to be, because I mean, again, you are following up one of the greatest of all time. So like, how do you do that? How do you follow?
Not only following it up, but let's be perfectly honest. Let's take a look at his accolades from this. Yes, it's not doing well in box office.
No,
but he made Cy King feel better about the Kubrick adaptation.
Yeah.
Like, hot damn, if that's not the best Stephen King adapter of all time, then it's pretty fucking close.
And I'm not, and I don't want to, because like Mark is saying, whoa, better, not yet, I'd say, but he's getting up there. And for me, again, I'm not saying that like Mike has made a film. I mean, if you combined his films for their content of greatness, I don't think it comes close to Shawshank in terms of great
alone.
Yeah, in terms of great movie. So like maybe like I'm not saying that he's a better filmmaker, but in terms of when it comes down to like adapting Stephen King, he had a lot harder time.
He definitely had a rougher road.
His bed was set a lot fucking worse than Frank's was, and in both cases, in my opinion, he has fucking nailed it, and he has hit a grand slam in both cases to the point where like. I'm not just going to look at, and I kind of held back a little bit on the conversation earlier. We talked about, he's working on something else with King, but like, I would look at it where I don't just want to see like what horror, like find me what the hardest fucking thing of Stephen King's to make would be and put Mike on that.
We know what the hardest is. Ryan said it in the chat. Put him on the Dark Tower.
Yeah.
That's it. You want the hardest thing to adapt for King? He's already done Gerald's Game, which was up there. I'll tell you right now, the hardest thing to adapt for Stephen King is always going to be the Dark Tower.
Yeah.
Okay, there is too much in that universe to put on one film.
Yeah.
Mike Flanagan should be the one to lead the revolution on that. Mike Flanagan should be the guy.
Yeah, and like we're in a position obviously where that's not totally possible, but I would say that like even if it was a series and we're going to go on TV side, he's done TV as well. Like he would probably be on the top of my list for Dark Tower people if it didn't exist right now and it was like signed tomorrow. Like I would hope for Mike. But I would say for me, top pick, I want to see him do The Shining. I do.
You still want to see a remake
because
of The Shining.
And I almost think that might even be harder than doing Dark Tower, because can you imagine being in? I mean, I know Garrus did it in the 90s for the TV series, but imagine doing a film where you're now going to reinterpret The Shining and do King's book. Like with the existence of Kubrick's film, that almost is like Dr. Sleep times 10 in my opinion.
Right.
Because now you're going to be seen by a lot of people as you're trying to remake The Shining when you're really not. You're just readapting the book and adapting the book full on versus, doing what Kubrick did. So I feel like I might hedge that a little bit more than Dark Tower, but I see what you're saying, and I could maybe I'm even wrong. Maybe Dark Tower is harder, but like, dude, I want it. I'm like,
I'll say it. Dark Tower's harder. There's no question about that. The Shining, you have a blueprint. Okay. Kubrick did a film that was fantastic. You change 3 things and you make a masterpiece.
But
you're always going to have the comparison to the Kubrick film.
Yeah.
But you're still going to have made a good film.
And that's the difficulty level that I think might make it bigger than Dark Tower. Because you will always, every fucking scene, you're going to have people fighting against, comparing you. It's like I always say with like, if you're going to step into a role of a character that pre-existed, like Captain Kirk or whatever, there's 2 ways you can go about it, or Han Solo, for God's sake. There's 2 ways you can go about it. Mimicry, or you just kind of make it your own thing. Mimicry is hard because every fucking thing you do, every line you say, every way you stand, people are going to look at you and go, how does it compare to Harrison Ford? Or how does it compare to William Shatner?
You missed.
But if you do your own thing, like it gives you more freedom. And I just feel like this is like the do your own thing, the Dr. Sleep, Mike Flanagan. But if he did The Shining, that's almost him having to do mimicry because he's going to have to hit some of the same things that Kubrick did. So
the question is, why do you hate Mike Flanagan? Why would you put that on him? Like, you're a terrible person.
I mean, to a point, yes, that would be terrible.
I would much rather see him in the Dark Tower universe because there's more to it.
Yeah, I think for sure.
I think the Dark Tower's breadth and width and depth is what makes the Dark Tower harder than making The Shining. Make me a cinematic universe, not a series. I feel that a series is the easy way for Dark Tower. We've always said, it should be adapted into a series.
Yeah.
HBO, Amazon, Netflix.
I don't know that it can
someone should pick it up.
I don't know if it could work in movies, though.
That's my point, is what you're talking about with this the hardness of remaking The Shining and the comparison and everything like that. It's going to be the same thing for Dark Tower. Dude, Dark Tower fans, we're two of them, are avid, vicious fans. We deserve it. We deserve a series. We've been with this for, some of us, decades.
Yeah.
Waiting for books, waiting for King to finish the story. Give us the next piece. What is the outcome of Blaine's riddles?
Yeah.
What is the riddle competition going to turn out? We've been waiting for we have, unlike almost any other series that I know of like that. I mean, Harry Potter, dude, you wait a few years. Great. There's the next book.
Yeah.
Okay, it's done. Great. Let's move on with our lives. Read the extra stuff that J.K. Rowling's been putting out over the past decade.
Yeah.
The Game of Thrones. Oh, you're waiting. You're waiting for the book. Yeah, it may never happen.
Yeah, it'll never happen.
But you have a show to watch. So my point for the Dark Tower is that to get a successful cinematic universe out of that, the magnum opus, as you call it, of Stephen King, that's going to be the hardest thing, hands down.
Yeah, and I would say in that way, yes. If you're going to force it into a film, it is the hardest because I honestly don't think it's even possible.
Oh yeah,
and I wouldn't even put that on Mike because I don't even think he could do it because none of the books are as cut and dry. I think book 5 is probably the closest to like cut and dry as like a single film.
Book 2. Book 2.
Yeah, I guess maybe book 2, but book 5, it's like, okay, you're talking like the 7 Samurais. Like it's very, like you got a lot of cool cinematic stuff already in place to kind of show you how to do that. Yeah, book 2 is a little bit more, but everything else, like, oh my God, how in God's name would you do that? Mm-hmm. Like it would almost have to be multiple films for each
And
book.
That's what I'm saying. And that's why I keep saying cinematic universe.
Yeah.
Give Mike the keys and just say,
but the problem is
go make me 4 movies.
The problem is you're never going to be guaranteed that. I mean, dude, fucking Peter Jackson almost couldn't get any studio to give him the green light on 3 films for Lord of the Rings. Like, who's going to say like, oh yeah, sure, we will preemptively green light 10 movies for you.
We're
like,
not talking what's plausible. We're talking what we want.
Yeah. But no, I think what I want is, even if it's on Amazon, I want a series and I want Mike involved. I don't know. It's so next up,
Glenn Mazzara goes and does that other series. Bring in Mike.
But no, I mean, I do want to see what Glenn has for us for sure.
I like Glenn.
But,
I really do.
yeah.
I really do. I'm
Yeah.
not shitting on Glenn. I really hope that he stays with the Dark Tower versus this new series.
Yeah, and I mean, Mike's got a lot. He's going to be a hot property. I mean, this not doing well in the box office is going to maybe somewhat curtail him, but I think there's been a lot of talk recently where people are even walking out of Dr. Sleep going, Mike is one of the best horror directors in the game right now. I mean, James Wan has kind of moved out of the horror realm in a lot of ways. Yeah.
He just did Aquaman, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, maybe he does have that crown right now, but yeah, he's great. So without going through and relitigating your actual list, knee-jerk reaction, do you think Dr. Sleep would be on your top 10 Stephen King adaptations?
Yes.
Okay.
Easy.
For me, my knee-jerk reaction would be yes as well. It probably would be. Mm-hmm. So if it is on your list, which in our case is both isn't, I'm not going to make you place it because, again, I don't want you to have to go through whatever. But do you feel, knee-jerk reaction, that it would be in the 7 to 10 range, 4 to 6 range, or 1 to 3 range?
In between 4 and 7, probably.
Okay, so on the lower 2 tiers of if you broke up the top 10,
it's not gonna make my top 3.
Okay, all right. I think I'd probably say about the same. Probably without going through and actually looking at what my list is right now, I'd probably say somewhere 6 or 7, probably would be one of those numbers right in that realm. Maybe lower, but like chances are it'd probably be in that realm. Which I mean, we're talking top 10, so how could it be low, right?
Yeah.
But, cool. So last up, we talked about Mike working with King again. Let's say King comes to you and universe parts, and suddenly the board is completely wiped, and no Stephen King thing has anyone attached. And King asks you, what do you want Mike on next? So it could be anything. Even stuff right now, like right now, Josh is filming The Stand. That would go away. Like free reign, whatever you want. Any Stephen King property.
Anything I pick goes over to Mike.
Yeah.
So I would leave Stand with Josh Boone. I love Josh, and I think he's job. I'd leave that alone.
And okay, so I guess for this, I don't want it to be like that. You would be screwing Josh. Just say it's almost like a Thanos snap, and like you revert back.
I still don't want to see Mike do The Stand
because for instance, if someone said like the Dark Tower, I don't want it to be like a slight on Glenn at all. So like for this, like this question hypothetical, it's mostly about like suddenly snap. Maybe it's Men in Black flashers and nobody remembers anything, and it's free reign, and they go, hey Peter, what do you want Mike on?
It's still the Dark Tower.
Okay.
If I could get him guaranteed to be making Dark Tower merchandise, film adaptation, or miniseries, or seasons, episodic seasons on streaming or TV, I'd take it.
Okay.
Over anything else.
Yeah. I mean, for me, again, The Shining, I already kind of tipped my hand a little bit. I think that would be high on my list. Salem's Lot as well. I know that got brought up. You mentioned it as well. I think that would be a huge one. And it's such a great thing, a great adaptation. I mean, just looking through the list a little bit. I mean, Pet Sematary, because that's a difficult one. And I don't know. I think the original still did it best. I'm trying to think. It's kind of already there. I think honestly, I'd go with you in some ways also to say Dark Tower would be awesome. Nothing else is jumping out at me super crazy. But yeah, I'd say I'd say The Shining, Salem's Lot, and Dark Tower are like, those are the ones I'd be like, it would be between those three. Everything else wouldn't even be a question for me. Then it would just be a matter of like figuring out what would I want more. The Dark Tower fan of me would probably win out, and I'd probably pick Dark Tower just selfishly. But my God, dude, would I love to see a fucking Salem's Lot Mike Flanagan movie? God, yes. And like I said, like if there's one person I'm going to trust to stamp on the ground of what Kubrick did and put them in that spot, Mike's probably the one guy I would trust.
Mark says in the chat, Christine. I actually had another one come to my mind, horror aspect of it. Dude, I wouldn't lie. And
Christine's a good one too, because you're following up John Carpenter, for God's sake. Like, that'd be a tough position too. So yes, that'd be an interesting one.
One that I would not mind a Mike Flanagan adaptation of it. I wouldn't mind him to see do Cujo.
Cujo, yeah.
Cujo would be an interesting,
and that is a hard one too. That has a level of difficulty to it.
With him doing what he did in Gerald's Game, he could easily do Cujo.
Yeah.
With the mom and the son. Tab.
Yeah. Jacob Tremblay can play him. Just
why
sign,
not?
seal, and deliver this right now.
Why not? Well, he's a little bit too old now.
You could always age him up for the.
No, if you make him old enough to like fend for himself and defend himself.
I mean, he's the German or the fucking
Saint Bernard.
How
dare you?
Outweighs Jake Tremblay easily. Like he
Yeah,
couldn't really fend for himself.
But he could hold a bat. I mean, that's the difference there between a 5-year-old.
It'd be like you versus a werewolf. Like you may get a shot.
No, it's not. I mean,
dude,
it's the
Saint Bernards are like 100-pound dogs.
Right,
that kid's probably.
But we're talking about if the mom stands her ground, the kid could get away. A 5-year-old could not. The kid's not fast enough, not big enough to climb a tree or something like that.
Yeah.
Get inside and lock the door. You couldn't do that with a 5-year-old. You could do that with a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
I would do that with a 12-year-old. I would risk my life for my 12-year-old and say, look, here's what we're going to do. You're going to get inside. You're going to find a room. You're going to close the door. You're going to block it. and we're gonna get help.
Yeah.
That is the difference there between aging him up. You got to have the kid be helpless. Otherwise, the mom makes a break for it. And everything.
I think Time Machine, if you can go back to room age, Tremblay, probably be about right.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah. So that's the end of my questions. Any other? I also have just kind of an open-ended.
Mark, are you saying you'd bet on me versus Saint Bernard?
Versus a werewolf? I said versus a werewolf.
Versus a werewolf? No, I'd be on the floor crying.
Even with a bat. I mean, because I think size comparison of like a werewolf versus you, it would be about the same as a Saint Bernard.
It all depends on what werewolf we're talking. I mean, are we talking American Werewolf in London? Or are we talking like, the common werewolf, which is 9-10 feet tall with huge long arms and razor sharp claws?
Yeah.
I mean, are we talking, like the stupid werewolf, which is just, a human turning into a wolf?
Well, the American Werewolf one, like that one's smaller, but I almost feel like that's like a Wolverine type, like viciousness. Like I feel like that's like one that you'd almost want it to be bigger because then it might have like a weak spot. But like in its size that it is, like you're done. Like
well, it's always the same thing for me that gets me with people with like smaller animals, like the honey badger or a badger or Wolverine, like the real Wolverine animal. Every time someone says Wolverine, I instantly go to, hey, bub. Every single time I go to the X-Men. But it's always with me. I've always had the stance that I'm not going to get bullied by an animal that's fucking smaller than me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care what it has. A fucking Canadian goose fronted on me one time in my life. I stood my ground and I was like, dude, come any closer. I'm going to fucking kick you in the head. Like, I don't care. Like, I'm not going to be bullied by fucking something that's smaller than me. And I'll tell you right now, I won't let my kid either. Like, I've seen these videos where like parents are getting chased by swans and stuff, and they're like trying to protect their child and everything. Beat the fucking swan! Like, what the hell are you doing? Make the animal go away.
Long, slender neck.
God.
Like orange bill.
Did you ever see the video of the guy that there's like 4 adults walking down the path next to a river or a canal, and the swan's like harassing a woman, and everyone's just like, oh, please don't, Mr. Swan, please don't, Mr. And then finally one guy's like, fuck this, grabs him by the neck and throws him in the river. That guy, that's me. So like me versus like a werewolf, yeah, I'm gonna give it my all. Am I gonna win? Fuck no.
Oh, great little tangent there. But yeah, I don't know that I have any other closing thoughts. Like I had my big controversial one there. I wanted to, but yeah, overall, I love this movie. I think it was a lot of fun. I thought it was really well done. I feel like it was perfect for me. Like it was probably more 80% Dr. Sleep, 20% Shining. Yeah, and that's what I was hoping for.
That's the good balance.
Yeah, like honestly, if I weren't as much of a nerd as I am and as hardcore into it as I was, I don't know if I would have seen Dr. Sleep with the way it was advertised. You know what I mean? Just because I would have been like, whatever. The Shining is The Shining. I've already seen it. Like, but I am who I am, so of course I saw it and I was going to see it. But I'm really glad that like it was basically reversed. I said earlier, I feel like the trailers made it seem like 80% Shining, 20% something else, and like it was flipped.
Look at the posters.
Yeah, I mean posters, but I mean even the trailers. Like think about go back and think about like the trailers, because I always like to analyze trailers after I've seen the movie, because like there's times where you're just like, oh shit, they just everything in the trailers was like in the first 20 minutes of the movie.
Yep.
But
damn you, J.J. Abrams.
But with this one, yeah, it's just like, dude, yeah, like they're the whole like they everything that was The Shining was mostly at the tail end of the movie, and that was the shit they used for the most part. Nothing that like spoiled anything necessarily.
Yeah.
But it was like, all the shit like, oh cool, he's gonna look through the door just like his dad did. Oh well, we're definitely using that in the trailer. Like there was no question. So overall I would say highly recommend it to everyone. I think again, Mike pulled off the impossible. I think that like in retrospect, I think in the future we might even lose sight of this a little bit, but like just how hard this challenge must have been for him as a filmmaker to have to step into this role, and all credit to him, man. I think he fucking nailed it, and I think that he is one of the best horror directors
for sure
right now on the scene, and I think Stephen King wise, we'd be lucky to have him in any King movie.
Oh yeah. One final thought for me for Dr. Sleep. Unfortunately my wife wasn't able to go with us to see it. She wanted to. So when it comes out, I'm looking for a Shining Dr. Sleep box set, hopefully.
Oh, yeah.
To see that they come together on my Vudu. And I will have her watch it, and I will report back, because she loves Ewan McGregor, not as much as us because of Star Wars, but just as easy on the eyes, and
Oh, he was in like Moulin
great
Rouge
actor.
stuff. I think she into that kind of stuff. Like,
I don't think Moulin Rouge ever lost. She's not a huge musical fan.
oh, okay.
Surprisingly.
Okay.
I thought she would be when I first met her. She's a huge fan of music, but movies and music apparently not as much.
Yeah.
So, I think I've seen more music.
Yeah.
So, but the trailers and everything like that were definitely intriguing. She loved The Shining, the movie. So she's very intrigued by Dr. Sleep and what it holds and everything like that. So
yeah.
So it's gonna be it'll be an interesting report back in a couple months when that happens.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it again. I got one of the membership things, so I can go to movies pretty much at no cost. I mean, I pay monthly, but like I've already paid for it this month with all the fucking movies that have been coming out. But I'm certainly maybe one of these weeknights I'll just go and watch it again, and maybe I'll draw back on some of these opinions, but I really don't think that I will. I think that overall, I feel like I'm level-headed enough about it. Really good, enjoyed it a lot. So let's go ahead and hit the outro, or actually, no, we got to do an email. I know we're running long, but I think we got a short email here we can read. So this is Ryan from California.
Is that Ryan that's in the chat?
Oh, it might be actually. So Ryan from California, Heil, Ted, and Peter.
Kyle.
And here's where we maybe show the date of the email a little bit. It's Ryan from California writing again. I just got done listening to your 100th episode. Congratulations this far. Which, yeah, I don't know where we're at. I have a little counter thing, but I haven't updated in a couple episodes. So, but I know we're certainly, I'd guess close to 108, 110-ish overall.
So we're not that bad.
No, not terrible, but it's always like one of those where it's like, oh, happy Easter, and we're reading it in September. It's like, oh, shit. He says it's the best show for anything Dark Tower related, and definitely appreciate that.
Thank you.
That's high praise, and definitely appreciate kind words. He says, I enjoyed the segment on the article about the 10 book series that would have made it better games than Witcher 3. I'm a big fan of the Witcher books and love the game. Please read them, Peter. I think you'll like them. The Witcher 3 even has Flag in it, or at least a similar character. It's uncanny.
Holy shit.
So you got Red Dead, you've got Roland, basically, In most people's mind, it's Roland. And, dude, who of us has not played Red Dead and built your character specifically to be Roland?
Oh, I did.
I mean, red neckerchief, right? I mean, you have to. I mean, there's no other choice. He says, anyway, I want a Dark Tower game very badly, and I think Peter hit the nail on the head with the premise of the game being about a younger Roland just after the events of Jericho Hill. And you know what? Rhea the Coos could be an antagonist during the game. How nice would it be for Dark Tower fans to kill her ourselves as we play with Roland? Wouldn't it be awesome?
I'm gonna have good dreams tonight dreaming about that, Ryan.
Can you imagine? And you know what they have to do too? They have to make it like a checkpoint to where you can easily save and just go back and re-kill her over and over. Like every time you read the book, you're just like, you get to like one of those moments and you're just like, motherfucker.
No,
don't load the game up.
Here's what it is. Here's what you do. If you're the game developer, give me a call. I'll help you out. You finish the game. Usually you come back and you unlock like New Story Plus or whatever it is now.
Yeah.
The Batman games that I'm a huge fan of have that. Oh, play through again, but this time there won't be any counter icons.
Yeah, like the classic one is like
tougher.
GoldenEye, right? GoldenEye, you get all these cheat codes unlocked that when you go through and replayed it now, you could do all these cool things.
In New Game Plus on the Batman games, you start with all of the gadgets and the upgrades that you had from the original game.
Oh, okay.
So you're just like souped up Batman from the very get-go. You're like, all right, I'm going to take down 5 motherfuckers at once. What you do in Dark Tower game instead is you say, oh, you finished the game. Congratulations. Here, you can go kill Rhea whenever you want. Yeah.
No, you could also do is a mode where every character that you fight, it just turns into Rhea. You can just go through the whole game killing nothing but her.
It's Roland, the Dark Tower, Roland versus Rhea.
Yeah, or like a zombie horde type thing where it's just like thousands of Rheas coming at you.
It is the Ryan from the chat. Good idea, Ryan. You made my night.
And then he says John Farson could be another antagonist. His army could be out hunting down Roland throughout the game. There's a lot of possibilities with Roland's timeline. And if not Dark Tower, just a Stephen King game, whether it's a horror game set in Derry or even a Bill Hodges detective game. I've always wanted King to collaborate on video games. His works are ripe for it. What do you guys think? You know what's weird for me is I have a hard time. I know it's like a huge boom right now in like games to have horror. I have a hard time, like, can't make a horror. Like, there's just part of me that's just like, I don't know. Like maybe I'm just too like
You don't get
maybe
scared.
maybe I'm too old, but there's just part of me that's just like, even though I played some of them for God's sake, like the Alien Isolation is like a great horror game. It's basically hide and seek for adults, but like, but there's just every time I hear like someone's like, oh, I want to see a horror game, I'm always just like, you can't make a horror game. Like that's my knee jerk reaction of just like, you can't do that. Like games aren't scary. You got to like, it's got to be a shooter or something. Like again, that probably is more of my biases and maybe my age, where like, because you couldn't have done a horror game 20 years ago. There's no way.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, even like Doom and stuff had kind of a horror vibe, but it was like through the perspective of
Doom, but it was all
you know?
bright and vibrant and like, oh, it's demons. Bang, bang, bang. you
Yeah.
know?
So every time like when you hear like a horror game set in Derry, that just seems to me like, as cool as that'd be, it's impossible. That wouldn't even be a game.
Dude.
But then there's part of me that's like, wait a minute, actually,
We've
there's
already
like,
had that.
There's like 10 different like games that people could probably name that are like, here's a great fucking horror game that would like, you know, there's tons of them. But like again,
Silent
it's just,
Hill.
yeah,
The Silent Hill series is basically exactly what we're talking about here. Is you go into a town
okay.
and it's just fucking god awful.
Mark has proven me wrong. Resident Evil is an older game, which
There you go.
I will say though with zombies, that's a slight difference because you're ultimately I don't know. I feel like that fits into a game more like, to me, like it's a natural thing to say like, oh, a zombie game, but like, oh, a horror game where you're in Derry, like you're not going to be able to like fight off Pennywise, like so. It would literally just be like Alien Isolation almost, where it's like a whole game, like the whole fucking purpose of it is to like maybe solve it and maybe get to the end where you maybe with your team can defeat him.
Mm-hmm.
But like how terrifying, like it's just a whole paradigm shift that for me, maybe I'm old and set my ways, but like I'm a first person shooter kind of guy. And
yes, you
like,
are.
I don't know. And then he says, yeah. And then what do you guys think? So is there any other, I mean, I think even an overall King game would be pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Like almost like, I mean, basically what Castle Rock, we haven't watched Castle Rock. I don't know about you, but I haven't watched Castle Rock season 2 yet. But I'll throw something out to you too. I threw it out on Twitter. I saw a headline that went away pretty quick, but basically it made it sound like there's something in the latest episode of Castle Rock that may be kind of big and like foundational, like shifting of the show and pretty large. Like I don't know, because I just, the way the headline is, I can't remember the phrasing, but it was something that like one of those things where it's just like the Mandalorian. There was a bunch of articles after episode 1 where it's like, holy shit, like, and I'm not gonna say anything, but like, you know, we all know unless you're in a country that doesn't have Disney Plus yet, or unless you pirated it, but it's like there's just like one of those things where it's like, holy shit, this changes everything. And it just seems like maybe Castle Rock hit one of those recently. And there's part of me that's like, maybe I got to move that to the top of the list.
Yeah,
and
maybe
start
I need
watching
to start watching.
Yeah, but maybe like Castle Rock, what that's doing on the show wise, like that'd be an interesting game. Like one where you like wander into Derry, wander into like
Castle Rock,
or fucking Salem's Lot. You know, like,
there you go. There's a good fucking horror game setting. Is that you have to go in and investigate Salem's Lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
Now, do you go like Colonial Marines, like Aliens, where you're like someone that's like fully like ready, or do you have it like where you're like a journalist and like what was that zombie game where you were like a photographer? So like you were like the game wasn't built to like shoot very well. You can get a gun, but like you weren't good with it.
Yeah.
But like it was all about getting good pictures of like Dead Rising, like something like that. Imagine putting a game like that, but making it where you're having to go into like investigate Jerusalem's Lot.
You have to like you end up getting a crucifix and like garlic and whatever else. Holy water.
Finding the diary of Callahan. Mark says a game of the Mist could work. That would actually,
that would actually not be a bad shooter game where you're at the military installation trying to,
or survival. Imagine it's a survival game.
A survival one. Yeah.
like I mean, you in that grocery store would not work out well.
I'd fucking murder that woman so goddamn fast.
You wouldn't even let anything happen. You would just go right up to her and kill her.
I would fucking beat her to death.
Then they would like lynch you for like kill you because like, oh my god, this guy just fucking killed this lady and like for no reason. And they like you like game over because they all kill you, but you're like, it was worth it.
I'd do it 7 or 8 times before I moved on.
Ryan
says Alien Isolation is his favorite game of all time.
Oh wow, yeah. I actually didn't even get all the way through it, but I did play it. But it got like I don't know, it got me so anxious and worked up that like I didn't get that far into it. But no,
that's a horror game.
I need to play it at some point, for sure. In terms of just like, and it's just like one of those like we used to have it when we played Gears of War. and the freaking berserkers when you knew it was
Oh,
behind you.
God.
And you're just like it's that vibe the whole time you're playing like Alien Isolation. You're just like, oh my God, it's right there.
Well, I recently picked up I downloaded and played Gears of War 4.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck, if there's berserkers, I'm gonna lose my shit.
Because like the second game had none of them, and I was just like, how do you take like the best thing from that freaking game, and not use it at least once, even if it's like at the end for like a boss or something? But that's bizarre. Then he signs out and says, "Keep up the good works. I'm pumped for whenever I get notified of a new episode. And thank you, Ryan, and Jack Ryan's in my head now. Like,
oh yeah,
yeah, it's yeah. My yeah, that's, but yeah, no, I think there's a lot of possibilities. I mean, we talked about the theme park not long ago.
Oh yeah.
But I think game wise, dude, imagine 11/22/63.
Where every decision you make makes outcome change.
Yeah, I mean, imagine that as like a sandbox type thing. You know what I mean? Like you can only build it so big, obviously. But, like imagine it to where like you could spend a lot more time in dairy. You can spend time like whatever, and like. But then, like, imagine the difficulty is like, I feel like that'd be like one of those games like super frustrating. Like
I imagine it would be a little bit better if you did it like the Telltale games. You've never played those, have you?
I don't know.
They're the ones where it's like the Walking Dead game. There's also a Batman game, The Wolf Among Us. They recently just went under, so I don't know what's going to happen with the rest of their stuff. But it's like, hey, The Walking Dead. Hey, I think we should cross the street and go into that hardware store. And you have like 4 answers. No, you're an idiot.
So like an
RPG-ish.
that's a
good. Yeah, kind of like that. But then there's still like action stuff in it. I think 11/22/63 would work really well like that, because then basically it's like kind of like those old Goosebumps book. If you pick yes, go to page 122. If you pick no, go to page 50. So you have the 4 answers, and it's like, okay, if you select this one, that affects this.
But I think that like a full-on real-time game, because dude, imagine this. We talked about it. There was rumors for a tiny bit that maybe 11/22/63 would go on to more seasons with different events. Imagine a game that starts with the events of 11/22/63, but then that's only a quarter of the game, and the rest of it is like a couple different events, like historically. I don't know. A lot of cool possibilities there. So thank you for the email, Ryan.
Yes, thank you.
And now we'll hit the outro. I almost forgot, and I glad I didn't, because man, we said we're not going to miss emails again. So if you guys want to subscribe to us, you can do that on Apple Podcasts. You can also stream us on Stitcher. If you want to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, we would appreciate that. Next, the show notes are at darktowerpalaver.com. Go there and look for all the articles we talked about today. Pictures, all that kind of fun stuff will be on there if you want to see that kind of stuff. Maybe I'll even make a post for these Dr. Sleep questions that people can, because we actually had no emails for Dr. Sleep. In terms of coming in, I forgot to mention that earlier. It's obvious now. But then in the future, if anyone wants to send emails regarding their feelings, Dr. Sleep, maybe I'll put those questions up as a separate post.
Okay.
Where people can answer those questions. And if you want to engage the show, you can do that a number of ways, and Peter can tell you about that.
You can email us, like Ted just said. It's darktowerpalaver@gmail.com. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/darktowerpalaver. And on the Twitter, it's @darktowerpod. And then check us out on YouTube. It's youtube.com/darktowerpalaver.
Indeed. And so next time we will be back for
the live show.
So normal time as we normally do. So maybe clear your calendars if you can. Have your Skype things ready. And I will definitely, I'm trying to think of the best way to, I guess we'll have to, me and you, when you're like not here, and test it out and make sure we get it all working. We'll maybe plan it and make sure we have it all work, because we haven't done a live show. Call-ins for
we can do it like what we did last time is you ended up calling me at home, so we could,
and then I could test and make sure it looked all right and stuff.
And then we also, what we did at our place is you kind of did like a private show where I was the only one that could watch it, and everything, so we could do something like that.
So we'll be ready for that. We're looking forward to hearing from you guys. We probably won't have any emails unless nobody calls in and we end up with just a normal show, which is a possibility. But if you can shoot me a tweet or an email and letting me know if you do plan on calling in, and I can kind of gauge what kind of callers we might have in terms of numbers and stuff. But it'll be open for any topic, Dark Tower related, Stephen King related. Maybe if we don't want to go too far off the rails, but maybe if there's just even some Q&A, if you want to ask us other things.
No, you know what? I'll throw it out there. You guys got any questions for me and Tad? Hell yeah, we'll answer them. I don't mind.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get too far into the weeds necessarily.
No. I mean, but we're your host. We're part of the content.
Yeah.
If you want to ask us something, like, Tad, what are you reading right now? Anything like that?
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, that's no problem. But like Tad said, let's not get too far off into the weeds. But yeah, if you have any questions about, Stephen King, Dark Tower, anything that we haven't covered, which weird if we haven't covered something Dark Tower. Ask.
I will say maybe in the future, not this episode, but maybe another idea for one in the near future, maybe first part of 2020 would be do a call-in show again, or maybe even like one that has the chat as well, and do kind of a what is it, AMA? Ask me anything.
Ask me anything,
or ask me almost anything, maybe, because I mean I think there's some certain things that we don't want to talk about.
I'm not giving you guys my address. Sorry.
I will give you his address.
Hey.
All right, guys. Thank you guys for listening, and we will see you live. Hopefully, everyone live next week.
Couple weeks.
Yeah, next episode. The weekly thing kills me, but yeah, next episode in a couple weeks. So, as we always say, long days and pleasant nights.
Long days and pleasant nights, folks.
Alrighty, guys, in the chat, thank you guys for joining us. It was a lot of fun, a lot of engagement. This new streaming thing isn't too terrible, so it should do fine. But yeah, thank you everyone that joined us.
Thank you.
Yeah, a couple people from overseas.
Yeah. I know we had Ryan, which was really cool that you grabbed his email.
Yeah, his was right at the top there. Yeah. So yeah, that's always fun.
Mark, we had Chris pop in.
Yeah, Chris
Tom,
popped in.
Josh.
See,
and then, Kin. I'm just gonna call him Kin. It was like Mission Kin or something like that.
Yeah, a couple different. Yeah, there's a few different people. You said Josh, and then there was also Tom from Australia. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we had a couple. Good group here. So thank you guys for joining us live. Show up next week. If you want to be in the live chat, even if you just want to chat, you could do that too. And if you want to call in, definitely get your Skype stuff ready, and we will see you next time.
Yep. Bye, guys.